I got notes.
Good evening. Could everybody please sit down and so we can start? Thank you. Looks like we have a fairly full house tonight. Welcome to April 1st, 2024, Wolfeboro Zoning Board of Adjustment. This is not a joke. This is for real. Really? It's 7 o'clock. I'm Audrey Klein, the chairman, Suzanne Ryan, vice chair, Sarah Silk, clerk, our newest member, Jody Person, and we have Sabette Stroman is an alternate tonight, and Chuck Sumner is also an alternate, and Kate McMahon is excused, so we'll be using our alternates throughout the night. I want to explain the order of business first. The clerk will read the notice for our first case. We're going to hear the Irving sign case first. She'll report on the site visit. Anybody who needs to recuse themselves from the board will do so, and I'll seat any alternates if necessary, and it is necessary. A quorum of the board is 3 voting members, but we'll have a full board tonight, so that's a good thing. We'll ask the applicant to present their case. Board members will ask questions and discuss the case with the applicant. Then I will open the public hearing and we'll hear for those in favor and those opposed, and back to those in favor to rebut. We may open the public, we may start deliberating while the public hearing is still open if we think we need more information, or we may close the public hearing and just deliberate amongst the board, depending on whether we think we have all the information we need. Once we close the public hearing, we will hopefully get to a point where we can make a decision tonight. If not, the case will be continued to a certain date and time in the future if we feel like we need additional information for any reason. So, Sarah, would you... so I'm going to ask Sarah to read the first case and the meeting minutes from the site visit. Oh, yes. Let me just put in, I'm kind of losing my voice, so I'm going to try not to talk too much.
Okay.
Probably a good thing, yeah.
Our first public hearing, Irving Oil Terminals Incorporated, Cobalt Property, Irving Oil Property, 28 Center Street, tax map number 218-14, case number 04-V-24, public hearing for variance under 175-44D1 of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning to allow an interior illuminated sign, and our site visit was held at 6:45. All members of the ZBA were present, being myself, Suzanne, Audrey, Sabette, Chuck, and Jody. Also present was Richard Hanna and Catherine Caprio from Irving, and Nathaniel Tinker Lewis. Mr. Hanna explained that the faces 5 by 7 would be slid out and a new face would be put in with the new urban icon on it, and that they would pull out the old lighting, and the LEDs would be lit for 2 price designations for the price of gas, and they would have goosenecks that would be exterior lighting that would come out on either side of the double-sided sign for illumination. And that was basically it.
Thank you.
It was pretty
Chuck,
quick.
would you be willing to sit on this case tonight as the alternate?
Yes.
Okay. So for a variance, the applicant needs to prove to the board that they meet 5 different criteria. And so I will ask the applicant to come make their case.
Hi, everyone. My name's Rick Hanna. I'm a construction project manager with Irving Oil, and I'm speaking today about the signage related to the Irving Oil gas station at 28 Center Street in Wolfeboro. I have with me my colleague, Catherine Caprio, who's an operations manager with Irving.
Could you stand a little closer to your mic?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't want to spit on it.
It's a pain.
Billy
It's a
Joel.
pain.
Yeah, so we also have, I'm proud to say that Tinker Lewis is here. He's our operator at the location for almost 20 years, so thank you for that. And I'd just like to ask if the board members have the drawings available to them to review while I go through this stuff. Do you all have the drawings in front of you?
We have your application, but we'd like you to go through it page by page.
Yeah, just a quick look at the drawing while I speak to it may help a little bit to explain it. So I'll just get started. But a first pass sign permit was denied. We asked for a new Irving logo, posted Irving debit pay and regular, and pricing with LED pricers. So the note from the code enforcer was that the new Irving logo was okay, and the manual pricers could remain, but there were no LEDs allowed in the town of Wolfeboro. So a variance was requested, that's why we're here, and basically what we've asked for is a face replacement, no touching of the whole structure, the steel structure in the cabinet. It'll remain the same size at 36 square feet. We'll ask for a downward external light fixture to the sign, and we're also hoping that the board will agree that the LED prices should be allowed for the following reasons. So number one is the variance won't be contrary to public interest because the upgrade would not change the current condition of light pollution or interfere with the traffic or change the existing look of the historical area. I understand the concern there, and it would upgrade the current sign faces so that the sun-faded Irving logo today, and it would upgrade them to brand new faces with a new logo and make it look a lot cleaner. The spirit of the ordinance is observed for the following reasons. So, per the sign code 17544, section D, illumination of signs. So it reads that all lighting in the town of Wolfeboro is required to have full cutoff shielding. So what we've proposed is the gooseneck fixtures, which I showed you on that drawing on site, that have a shade built on top of them on both sides. And that would basically act as our full cutoff shield, and it's pretty standard for most signs like this. Also, section B says uplighting is a method that is prohibited. So we're using downward facing light fixtures, not upward facing, for that reason. There's also number 2 in the code, which reads, now this is a mouthful, so no flashing or animated signs or signs with visible moving parts or intermittent lighting to create the visual effect of movement shall be permitted. So the proposed LED pricers, I think we've all seen them at other gas stations throughout New England here, and they're a consistent direct light source, and they don't move, flash, or animate at any time besides when Tinker here would use the remote and change the price, and that takes seconds, so it wouldn't be flashing or moving at all. And then the last thing, number 3 in the code, is that no neon sign shall be permitted. So an LED pricer is, not neon. There is one little thing I wanted to add in here with the code that I found this morning. It says that, and it's actually section 5 of the illumination code, and it reads that small LED internally illuminated open signs, which are allowed at each business, can be 16 inches by 28 inches. So each business is allowed an internally lit open sign. And it doesn't actually say sign, it says signs. So they're actually allowed multiple open signs that are internally lit, and they're 3.1 square feet each. So our LED pricer is 12 inches by 35 inches. If you do the math on that, it's 2.9 square feet. So they're basically smaller than an open sign, and they would not stick out in the community because the surrounding businesses are also permitted to have them, on their storefronts. So it wouldn't be like something people wouldn't stand out to people. Number 3 here, substantial justice is done. So it would benefit our employees and our operator, Tinker, and his employees, because this upgrade would be giving them a remote fob and allowing them to change the price right from the cash register or the garage versus, I guess, going out there with a step ladder and a pole and knocking the price out. We all live in New England. We understand that, weather around here can be tough, and it's not a great thing to be doing, especially, safety-wise is number one, right? Is them going out there and tripping and falling or something. That's something that wouldn't be good. So I guess, why would the town want to deny us from keeping our employees out of harm's way when they should be, in the store and in the garage where they work every day? It's also very important to note that the store's only open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's not like these things are going to be on someone's window at midnight or something like that. The latest the store ever stays open 7 days a week is 6 p.m. Gonna just take a breath here. All right, so the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the sign would look newer, cleaner, and refresh the corner. We'd also put a fresh coat of paint on it, so I think it would look real nice. And the site would remain a great place to fuel up and get your car professionally serviced by Tinker. Also, it'll give us the opportunity to market Irving Debit Pay to the community, which basically rewards customers for purchasing fuel and gains them preferred pricing by registering with us. There's certain rewards up to 10 or 20 cents off a gallon certain times of the year. Number 5 here, this is the big one, I guess, is the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship because right up the street, 7-Eleven and 670 Center Street, they have LED pricers, which were approved in 2021 by Wolfeboro's code enforcer at the time, without a variance, just on a regular sign permit, so they didn't have to come to the zoning board. And the ability of another gas station in town to be able to quickly change price while we're running out with a stepladder in a snowstorm to change our price makes it harder for us to remain competitive. According to the Avatar property cards, which I printed for both properties, it basically says that they're both in commercial C1 and C2 districts. And that's just what the property cards say. I printed both of them, so I know you have a zoning map that could show differently, but it still wouldn't change the fact that they have to abide by the same illumination laws. So just throwing that out there. And I think, to the best of my knowledge, there have been no changes to the sign code since 2021, which would make them not allowed today in 2024. So I did as much research as I could, and I couldn't find any changes or amendments to the code. So with that, I appreciate the chance to speak with you all today, and I look forward to fielding any questions you may have.
What is the color of the lights in the prices?
They're red. They're red.
Thank you.
I have a technical question, I guess, and that is the LED itself. Is that considered an internally lit sign or not?
Well, I mean,
Anybody?
Yes.
It is considered internally lit. So that's really what we're talking about. Other than that, you're going to have external lights lighting up the Irving Oil and everything else.
yep, we're going to have the gooseneck downward lights on the actual sign itself. And then the pricers, I guess why we're here is, are they considered internal illumination or not? I would probably argue that they aren't. And the difference, I would say, is in the sign itself, they put lighting in the cabinet, and then they slide a piece of, we call Lexan or plastic. You slide that in there, and then the lights shine through that whole panel. So the whole 36 square foot panel would be basically lit up.
You're right. That's what I would consider traditionally internally lit.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that. We're putting
No.
a downward light on the sign per the code, and then we're just adding a pricer, which would be, I wouldn't call it internally lit. It's more like like I was saying, like an open sign or something like that. And it doesn't change, it doesn't fluctuate, it doesn't flash. It's just I usually say it's a direct form of light. So it's not
Right.
something that is gonna really illuminate the neighborhood. It's just
Right.
gonna post the price in a better way.
But the interpretation is that LEDs are technically internal lighting. Okay.
Yes, that's internally
Well,
lit.
I think we're putting an LED light bulb in the gooseneck, which would shine down. I mean, LED is like what we're all using, it's,
Sure.
the bulbs in here are LED, so I wouldn't call that internal illumination like in the ceiling,
Yes. If you're going to talk, you need to come up to the,
Right, I think he's saying that the LED is a light emitting diode, and they basically burn like 75% less energy to light, so, your electric bill goes down.
Suzanne?
Yeah. You have a conflicting statement here under number 2. You say that would be willing to disconnect the existing internal light and add external lamp.
Yeah, so there is a discussion around.
So if you'd be willing to do that, then you don't need to be here, because you can replace what you have.
Right, so that's really.
So you got a conflicting reason for being here.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is the sign today, we believe, is internally lit as it stands. Is that?
Yeah, yes, it is. It was approved as the cabinet is internally lit, but it's
Right.
shielded so that it's not as bright as your normal
Exactly.
light, and that was approved in
Yep,
2008 or something.
exactly. So we're saying we're going to remove that internal illumination and then do a downward light. So we'll basically be taking away what's no longer allowed, and all we're asking is.
Well, it is allowed. It was allowed at the time.
But it's not allowed anymore,
Can I finish?
Yep.
so we would be.
That's just what I was trying to make the point. It was allowed prior to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And evidently, it's burned out. It's not working.
I can't confirm that, I mean.
Well, it didn't light up tonight anyway. So you can't
we
be
can't-
talking over there without.
If you want to make a point, you'll have to get up to the
I
microphone.
guess I'll speak on his behalf. He was saying that he's trying not to turn it on too much to save on electricity.
What I'm trying to say is, it seems like the priority request is to have digital, so you don't have to get up with a stick and change the price.
That's exactly right,
That's the
Susan.
primary thing. And you don't have to be here for that. You can do that, but you have to be here for internal lit. But you're saying we're willing to disconnect that.
That's right.
So which is it?
So the sign today is a 5-foot by 7-foot cabinet that we believe at one point was internally lit, so we are allowed to internally light it if we'd like. So what we're asking is can we, so are you asking me, I guess, we can put the LED pricers in the sign just without being here? Is that what you're saying?
No, because the prices on that internally lit sign are not illuminated themselves from within. The whole sign box is illuminated at half light. But they don't like to use it because it uses a lot of electricity. That's what I get from that.
Well,
That sounds about right, Audrey, yeah.
The numerical figures don't have to be lit. He wants it just to be digital.
Right. So
I believe they're asking for those to be lit, and they're not
yeah,
presently.
just jumping back to that first, I have it written here. So our first pass at our sign permit was denied, which basically we asked to put a new Irving logo, post Irving debit pay, and post regular pricing with the LED pricers in red. So that's what we asked for, and that was denied. So what we've done is we've said, okay, we'll take the internal lighting out of the sign, put a downward light on it, but will allow us to have the LED pricers. So we'll basically be adhering to the illumination codes, 175-44, Section D, on all fronts. But really, the question is are the LED pricers allowed or not? And then if you go to number 5 here, I think if we have a chance to just have the board speak on the fact that in 2021, they did approve the LED pricers at a gas station right up the street in the, commercial C1, C2 zone, without having to come here. So
I need to
Madam
ask you a
Chair.
question. If we were to deny the internally lit
yep.
and allow you, which you can do anyway, to have it digital, where you push from your office, you push a button and it changes the digital numbers.
Yep.
Does it still have to have the numbers lit? Or is it just the cabinet that's lit? Can the numbers not be lit and become digital without the cabinet being lit?
So the cabinet will not be lit based on what we proposed, but the prices for fuel will be lit. Yes, they'll, just like the 7-Eleven site.
I don't think, I got a different question from what you asked.
Okay.
If you leave the cabinet lit the way it was approved, and you just put up digital prices, will those be visible?
Yeah, yep.
So they wouldn't need to be independently lit with a red light. They
Well,
would still be
it's two
backlit.
different-
May I
I guess
finish?
there's-
They'll still be backlit from the internal,
So there's three things going on here. We have,
but is that true?
I can't really answer that. It's hard because it's like we have a cabinet filled with lighting, and that now is shining through the sign faces, illuminating
Right.
the sign. So that's not going to be there. But then we also have the two pricers, which are about 35 inches by 12 inches, and they're their own units. They're basically like you buy them from a company called Daktronics, and they actually get screwed into the faces. So they're lit independently from the internal lighting of the sign.
I understand. Can they be not lit and have the light from the box shine through them?
No, that would be going back to what we have, exactly what we have today, which is those slides.
Except for you could do it remotely.
You couldn't do that remotely, no, because it's just a plastic slide that then the light shines through.
So you can't put up the digital numbers but not turn on their lights and shine them from behind and change it digitally. They won't get illuminated
So
behind.
we can do that. We could do that. But the reason why we're here tonight is we're asking if we can do the LED
Gotcha.
option.
Okay,
based
so
on-
that's what you're asking for, and
Yes,
All
yeah,
right.
yep.
Madam Chair, can I?
yes, Sarah.
Okay,
Yes, so we could do exactly what we have today and add Irving debit pay and regular and light it from behind, but it wouldn't alleviate the fact that we have to go out with a pole and move it. The whole reason why we're here is we're really advocating for the LED pricers through safety, through efficiency, and just,
May I
the
ask
fact
my
that
question?
the site of the
Sarah's
street
still
has-
asking her question.
okay. I have the floor, just hang on.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just clarify here. We have a big area that is not going to be lit. And then down at the bottom, we have a small area which will have digits that will show. And the clarification I want is, will there be backlighting behind the digits, or will just the little red lights that are showing the digits be what is
Yep,
gleaming in our eyes?
just the red digits that are gleaming, just like the picture shows here.
Okay, because I
And that-
think they're not understanding that.
Yeah, the price will not be $888 either. That's just the drawing to show you the diodes. But you can see here that it's actually a black background on the pricer.
Do you have a color picture?
Yes.
So there's nothing flashing, and there's nothing neon.
No.
So,
Because he
No, I
wasn't by the
understand.
speaker, I will say he answered and said, that's correct.
so this is, they're lit,
Right.
red.
Right.
They're lit red.
Can I jump in here, or?
Yeah, you'll get a chance.
Okay.
But the cabinet isn't.
Correct. Sarah, did you get your question answered?
I'm sorry.
I did. I got it clarified
Yes.
perfectly well. There's no backlighting behind those little red numbers. It's
No.
all black.
And the Irving logo will be lit with the downward-facing light per the illumination restrictions, and it'll go right on the Irving.
Which you described as goosenecks.
Yes, and
Thank
they
you.
also, just to throw this out there, they are only open till 6 PM, 7 days a week. That's the latest they'll be open. So, daylight savings, they may be on for an hour or two, but like a day like today, the sun didn't go down till 7, so.
We'll get down to you, Jody, but
This is a quickie. Do the LED lights have to be red, or could they be white?
Well, our spec is red, so throughout our network, all of our sites have red, so we'd like to keep that if possible. I noticed that
It's better for
7-Eleven, they use white.
darkness.
I think that's what
Better for
the people at
darkness to be
7-Eleven
red.
like to use, but I'm told we like to use red at Irving, so. if-
Jody?
It's more just our brand.
Yeah, I could be wrong with this, but I believe you're grandfathered for an internally lit sign right now. That's what it sounds like.
Yep.
So I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I believe you could actually do the digital lights without applying for anything. So you're actually changing. You're going to get rid of the complete internally lit sign. You're going to go externally lit to code and then have the
Right.
lights down below. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess
I
what I'm
have
getting at is you're already, from my point of view, the signs run down. I think it would, I think it's moving in the right direction to go with this newer design, but
Yeah.
you're already grandfathered for internally, so I mean,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're allowed to keep the internal lighting and do the pricers, you guys just made my day here, but the reason why I went without it is because it seemed like 7-Eleven up the street, they were only allowed pricers and no internal illumination. So I figured
Chuck?
that was, just
Did you
going with
have,
what's in town type of
Did you
thing.
have a point?
There seems to be some confusion about light. The LED has to be turned on, it has to be lit in order to make a
See it at all.
number. To make a number. Otherwise, it shows as a whole series of 8s. So you can't backlight an LED that's not lit.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining that. That was what I was trying to find out.
That's what I thought. So-
Thanks. I have some discussion, but I have no more questions. Does anybody else have questions? I'll open the public hearing.
oh, one more thing, just
Yep.
to double check. It's going to be lit from 6 to 6 and then shut off.
Yeah, it's 6 to 6, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday and Sunday are our hours.
And does that, I'm a newbie, so does that get recorded if it does
Yes.
pass? That gets recorded, the
Yes.
times of, okay,
That'll be a condition.
yeah.
Is that fair? Is that fair for you?
Do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm good. Yeah. The LEDs they're efficient. They are efficient, so we have that going for us. Sit down.
Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application besides the applicant? Would anybody like to speak opposed to this application? Any more questions for the board till I close the public hearing? Okay, I close the public hearing. Discussion,
Would you repeat,
your microphone, please.
well,
Use your microphone.
would you repeat the hours? 6 to 6 is 6 to 6? Was that weekdays?
Yes.
And 8 to 5 weekends? Okay. I'd move to
Discussion?
close the public hearing
Oh,
portion.
I thought I did that. Okay. Is
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 we're going to have to go through the 5 criteria, but I would, just as a general statement, the town's worked very hard to rein in lighting. And lighting has been a hot button issue. And I'm torn on this. I don't know how long it's been disconnected, for one thing.
It sounds to me that it's not disconnected. They just don't turn it on because of
Well, how
energy
long has it
savings.
not been turned on? You talk about grandfathered, I mean, it's,
I don't know. I do know that when it was initially permitted, that there was a buffer put on the internal light to cut it about in half of what would have been a much brighter sign, which is probably why it looks dim to people who are used to having that brighter sign.
so do we know what the lumens are on this?
No,
So we don't know the brightness.
I don't think so.
It's not white light.
Huh?
It is not white light.
Well, let's just start going through the 5 criteria and see how it shakes itself out.
Okay.
All right, number 1, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because, well, what I preface this with is the public interest has been very vocal about not having downtown overlit. And we've put in the shield ordinance and the downlight ordinance and no internal lights in storefronts. There was an issue with some businesses having lights in their windows.
The small open lights ended up being a change in the ordinance due to a zoning amendment because they were not previously permitted, and the business sector of Wolfeboro really wanted that, so they ended up having a zoning change that was voted on by the voters, and so each one can have a small open light that's internally lighted in their window.
Okay, but the trend...
Before that, it was done.
Right.
Yeah.
The trend has been to curb lighting, not to encourage it and not to proliferate it. And my worry is that we'd be going down that path. There'll be the next one and the next one and the next one.
Sarah?
I think that they're willing to make a concession of having those gooseneck lights on the outside and not have the big, enormous rectangle backlit, which I think is a step forward in keeping with the direction that our light ordinance on signs was headed.
I agree with that.
Sabette?
Could you clarify something you said a minute ago? Did you say there was an amendment saying it was okay to have the LED, that we voted on that at some point?
Some, back in 2008 or 10, no, none of those little open signs that are now LED,
Everywhere.
but were some lighted, were
Okay.
permitted anywhere.
So so here's my thinking, and it pains me to say this, but the lighting committee, and I mean, we currently allow those LED lights. I hate them. I think they look just like neon. I think they're not in keeping with what we're trying to do in the town. But the reality is, we allow them. They are okay, the LED lights. So I would have to say if he's doing I'm not voting on this one, but if he's doing the gooseneck lights, then the LED lights are okay, technically by law now.
In the open signs only. They're only allowed in open signs
Well,
in the
aren't-
storefront.
Okay, so like when you go downtown and you see the real estate listings and there's LED everywhere, those aren't okay? Because they're everywhere around the, are we just not enforcing?
Yes, correct.
So we are not enforced, so I'm thinking they're okay, but it's actually they're not, they're just not enforced.
I think that's a administrative call as to whether those are signs or not is the issue, not whether they're lighted or not. The question is, are those lighted signs? And that, I don't think, that really hasn't been answered in any way, except for it's been untouched.
So just because we currently see it doesn't really mean it is it is code, it is okay.
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, I would, from my perspective, I would say that number one would be contrary to public interest.
Jody, did you have anything to say on number one?
Not really.
Okay.
Just, it just goes back to the same thing I said, like the, you know, they're allowed to have, they're one of the only ones in town allowed to have a internally lit sign. I just feel like going external on more than half the sign, external lighting, and then going with the digital, I just think it's just, to me, it's going to be a better looking sign. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
That's okay.
I'm new at
That's
this, but I'm
good.
just.
You've got 4 more questions to ask,
Yeah.
to answer, so.
Okay.
And we usually do 1 and 2 together.
Right.
Because they kind of married together, but the spirit of the ordinance is observed.
So with,
In the discussion we just had, my view is the spirit of the ordinance would not be observed.
I have to agree with Suzanne, because this sign, although it is approximately the same size as one of the permitted open signs that are in the window of a business, it's up in the air, and it has a much bigger impact than one of the open signs that are in the window of a business that's open. So I don't think that it is in the public interest to equate those two as being similar impacts. Number 3?
I think that
You have more?
just
Or are
real
you going
quick,
with number 3?
No, 1 and 2, I don't think it's contrary to public interest. Like Sarah said, I agree with what she said, that the downlighting that they're proposing is an improvement over what they have been approved to do now, which is the internally lit sign. Internal is potentially very bright. This is downlit, which is what we encourage.
It's not really downlit.
Sure it is.
Oh, well, the gooseneck is downlit, but
Right.
the numbers are not
The numbers
downlit.
are red LEDs. They're a little bit brighter than what's on your clock radio. I don't think they don't really light, they don't provide much light. They're visible, but they don't provide much light per se.
Okay.
Sarah wants to say something.
Yeah.
Sarah?
Relative to number 2, if you were to go to the other point of view of they have, even though it's not glowing right now, and it may have been someplace along the line, not used frequently and all, if you lit up a sign as big as the one that is there in a new sign, it would be very much greater of an interference with the night sky than the 2 downlit ones. So I think there is an attempt to conform with the spirit of the ordinance by putting in the downlit signs, and red lights are much less of an interference at night than white lights. As I think Chuck just mentioned, if you look at your radio dial in your car, you look at your speedometer now and then, even before the policeman stops you, you will see that in order to keep your night vision, the lights are red.
Okay.
So,
Number 3, substantial justice is done. Anybody want to take that one?
I'll take number 3.
Okay.
I don't think the argument 7-Eleven has it is valid, because you can't always be assured that something that exists is correct. So it's a slippery slope to rely on another business and what they're doing because sometimes things aren't enforced. So I think substantial justice is done because I think there is an effort to do that which they feel they need to do to keep their business going and be competitive, get the prices out there more quickly, and do as little damage to the night sky as possible.
Can I just add to that?
Yes?
Yeah. You can't, I don't think you can use the 7-Eleven as an example because that went in, for some reason I'm thinking 2012. It predated the change in the ordinance, which came in 2018. So that's not applicable.
I think it was 2021 it came in.
Oh, maybe the 7-Eleven went in 2018.
2021.
So when
The
did
paper he
ordinance-
had from
the
Terry
ord-
said
the ordinance-
2021.
When did the ordinance come in? 2018 or
Yeah.
2018? And so they got the sign in 21, and they didn't come for a variance.
They didn't come for a variance. I wasn't part of that project review, so I can't speak to how that was permitted. I don't know why it would be relevant necessarily here, but I can't
So-
speak to that.
So
To your knowledge, is that a permitted use in the C2?
The lighting, what I don't know is what the sign was before. So I don't know how that was approved. That's where I'm going with that one.
No, I was asking you about the ordinance. Was it different in the C2 than it is in the C1?
Nothing has been C2 since 2003. So that was the,
So again, I don't think, we can't really compare it to that for at least two reasons. One, we don't know whether it's legally lit, and two, it's not in the same zone, it's not downtown, it's out on the highway.
the sign ordinance doesn't differentiate between zones.
Okay, gotcha. Chuck, do you have anything for number 3?
No comment.
4, the value of surrounding properties will not be diminished. We haven't any testimony other than what their opinion is. We don't have any real estate opinion here, so I
No.
can't, I'm not about to weigh in on that. I don't have a,
Anybody?
Well, yeah, they are refreshing this sign. They're going to paint it. It's going to look, the logo is going to be updated, so it's a refreshed look. So I would think that would be an upgrade.
Okay. So you're saying it would not diminish surrounding properties?
Correct.
Yeah. I agree with Suzanne. We have no testimony from a realtor or any type of broker, so it's anecdotal.
Okay.
Is it important if this begins to set a precedent?
Well, I think that starts, you could speak to that in number 5. Is there a special condition of this property over the other properties that are similar that would make this one stand out as to approve it, whereas you wouldn't approve it in any of the other 2 gas stations downtown?
there's nothing unique about that property. It's in a commercial zone. They're allowed a sign. There's nothing that makes it different from anybody else.
Can you talk in your microphone, please?
And there's nothing unique about that property that makes it different from anybody else in the commercial zone. I don't know what the special condition is to the public.
There's no special condition written on this line.
And Audrey, I mean, maybe this is something I don't understand, but we do have 2 other gas stations right around the corner from Irving, right?
Correct.
So if he gets the digital sign, then we've set a precedent that the other 2 right there in that cluster of Main Street.
Well,
'cause it's-
variances by their nature don't set precedents because you're only looking you're looking for a piece of property that has a unique characteristic that allows you to approve the variance. So even though the other two are gas stations, does this have a unique piece about it that's different than the other two that would allow you to approve it here where you wouldn't approve it in the other two places?
Stated that way, then no.
That's what I said.
There's
no.
nothing different
Nothing
about
different
that
about
gas
that.
station than the other two that are right there. And then again, we don't know how the history of 7-Eleven and how that came about, but it's
Well, it's a different zone.
district. Yeah, right.
So we don't
Use
even
your
have to
microphone,
consider it.
please, Suze. Your microphone. You're making some good points, but nobody can hear you.
I'm sorry. Just disregard the 7-Eleven, it's a different zone. So I don't see that there's anything unique about this property from any other gas station.
Chuck, do you see any special conditions on this property?
We're talking about number 5, right?
Yes, the
Yes.
first part of number 5.
Well, above the special conditions, we talked about little enforcement of the provisions would result in unnecessary hardship.
Right.
Can we discuss that?
Chuck, could you get closer to your microphone? We can't really hear it down here, please. Thank you.
Closer to your microphone.
If you turn your head and look at us, then you, like, inadvertently move away.
So part of the unnecessary hardship starts with, is there a special condition? And then the other part is A or B. So to speak to unnecessary hardship, you have to answer that special condition
It all
phrase.
goes together. It all goes together.
Well, I don't know where it falls, but the unnecessary hardship is this poor guy has to send a worker up a stepladder to change prices now. And we have technology that would allow him to just do that electronically from inside the station.
And is that different than the gas stations up the street?
I don't know. Does it matter?
Yes,
know?
because that would be a special condition of his location.
I think the Three Sisters just have a ground sign with their prices on it. I don't believe they have any kind of standing high sign at all.
Correct. I think that's correct.
Could you repeat that?
Okay, the Three Sisters gas station, the pale tan one, I noticed when we were going down to look at the Irving station, they have no elevated sign. They have like a sandwich board type sign that is down by the sidewalk on the far side, not the traffic side, but the far side, that has their gas prices on it. They don't have a sign similar to either 7-Eleven or the Irving station.
Audrey, when we were talking at the site visit, and I've forgotten his name, the guy, the Irving guy.
Tinker?
He said, I guess I'm wondering, is there something in between that allows him to digitally change prices without it being the LED lights? Does that exist?
That's not what they're asking for.
Because when we were talking in the parking lot, he kind of said something like, and maybe I'm
And I
confused, but I
tried to
can meet you
clarify
in the
that,
middle.
but the answer is that's not what they're asking for.
Okay.
We don't get to change what the applicant is asking for.
So, back
And so-
to Jody, is there a special condition with this gas station that's different than the other two in town that you would say would rise to the level of permitting a waiving of the law over the other two?
Only thing I can think of is the traffic right there and the way that sign pole is right next to the side of the road. You got the hill coming down, and they're out there trying to put that up there. That's the only thing I can think of is a safety to go. I think that would fall under that maybe as a criteria of safety for the guys not to be out by the side of the road when, you know, how that hill gets icy, and that's just one of my thoughts on it. That's all.
Good point. I believe the corner store has a pole sign, Sarah, to your equivalency. They have a pole sign that's not lighted at all. They must change it the same way manually.
Don't know. I
And
didn't
7-Eleven
have-
does have a ground sign. So I don't believe there's any special conditions with this property that would make it different than the other two gas stations in town that would allow us to waive the law for this one and not then say that it should be allowed, for all three, which is not our decision. That's a zoning amendment decision.
I would think that, I'm not sure if it's a special condition, but I think the fact that they have a sign that was in some way, even though it was dully lighted, is lighted, and they're willing to give that up. And you didn't see that 7-Eleven was willing to give theirs up, makes this property, I'm not sure if it qualifies as a special condition, but it certainly makes it apparent that they are trying to go to as near to compliance as possible, because, as Jody said, there's the argument that were they or were they not grandfathered, and that's a slippery slope, and they seem not to have been using it, and then you have to determine how long it was out of use. But
Are you ready for a motion? You've had enough discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else want to say anything?
I would remind, and I'm saying this for the public as well as reminding our board here, that the applicant must meet all 5 of the criteria. If there's one in your mind that they don't meet, you must deny. They have to meet all 5. And I don't believe from the discussion that I've heard going around the table that they've met all 5. I would make a motion to deny case 04V24 for 28 Center Street, tax map 218018, for the Irving Oil, Rick Hannon.
Tax map 218-14.
I got off of here.
Okay, it's different on the agenda.
I've got 218, she's got 214. On my application, I've got 218018. So whichever is the correct number is what I'm moving on. I'll leave that up to Tavis to type in the correct tax.
21818, yep.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote?
Jody?
Being this first time, I'm going to have to go with a yes vote on this variance.
So her motion was to deny, so you're saying, yes, you would like to deny?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry. See, I told you I was new. So no, I'm a no vote on to
Okay.
deny.
Microphone? Oh, that's right.
no.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
So it sounds like it was approved, right? Yeah.
You have to make the motion to approve it. You
The
can't-
motion was defeated.
Motion was
3 to
defeated.
3 to
The
2.
motion was defeated, right,
Motion to deny was defeated. Yeah.
correct. So now there needs to be a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions that the large sign is downlit and the only illumination is the numbers in red.
From 6 till 6.
Yeah, 6 to
And
6.
8
I wanted
till
to say
5.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a second for Sarah's motion?
Second.
So are you in favor of Sarah's motion?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No,
Yes.
that passes. You're approved. 30-day appeal period before you pay for the sign.
Yeah. Audrey, Tavis, when they put in the 6 to 6, that's weekdays. It was a different time for Saturday and
8
Sunday.
to 5 weekends.
I was just wondering about findings.
Financing?
Findings? Findings of
Findings.
fact? Since you already voted, it's a little late, but might as well do it.
Do you guys want to do findings, or do you want me to do those later?
Okay.
Findings of fact? Do you want to do them now, or do you want me to do them later?
Let the prevailing side do the findings of fact.
Sarah,
Yeah?
would you like to do the findings of fact?
I can start it and let anybody who wants to.
Do you want to do it after the meeting?
For the decision? Okay. We discussed the variance would not be contrary to the public interest, and the spirit of the ordinance is observed. And I feel that that was true because there is a possibility that he could have prevailed with the large lit sign, and he's making an effort with the goosenecks and with just the digital numbers lit up to, the spirit of the ordinance is to cut down on nighttime light pollution, and I think he's trying to do that. And substantial justice would be done. It was put forth by someone, I don't remember who, about the safety of changing those signs now manually. And I believe there is a significant safety issue there, and he's probably putting his workers at risk. The values of surrounding properties will not be diminished. We have no expert testimony on that. And the special conditions of this property, distinguishing it from other properties, is that some of the other gas stations in town do not have lit-up signs. Some of them do have lit-up signs. And the special conditions for this one is they have a lit-up sign which they're willing to give up. And they are going to comply with the sign ordinance for the goosenecks, and they have agreed to 6 to 6 and 8 to 5 for the weekends. It won't be lit 24/7, which I believe 7-Eleven is. So he's diminished the hours of the existing one, whether the existing one was approved properly or not.
I think you should add to the special conditions Jody's point about where the location of their sign and how dangerous it is for somebody in that particular place to reach up and change manually.
I think I had in there that it was a safety issue, but that would probably be an aspect of it. Anyone else that voted yes have any input? Chuck?
No, I like what you said.
Okay. Are we all done? Then,
Is that it?
yep.
So, Sarah, do you draft that up and submit it? Is that how it works?
Tavis should
No.
have had
Tavis
It'll
that.
come out in the minutes.
Okay. So we're all set with that hearing, correct? Did we close? Yes, we did close the public hearing.
We
didn't
did, I think twice.
Twice? Better than not at all. All right. When you're ready, Sarah, could you read us the second case and the
Audrey,
site visit?
who's sitting on this one? Is it,
I was going to do that after,
oh,
but...
sorry. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. As soon as I find my, how did I lose my, my agenda? Audrey, I don't know, did you mention, oh, here it is. Did you mention at the beginning of the meeting that Kate was excused?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Yep, all right. because I forgot to note that on my first clerk's report. Goodhue Hawkins Real Property LLC, 121 Filterbed Road, tax map 190-26, case number 05 SE 24, public hearing for a special exception under 175-96.1B of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance to permit boatyard use. Formal submission, public hearing, site visit held at 6 p.m. The following members of the ZBA attended: Chuck, Audrey, Jody, Sarah, Sabette, Suzanne. Kate was excused. And the following members of the public, etc., were in place: Gretchen Gandini, Jennifer Hoffman, Jeremiah Burke, Derek Brown, Cody Gray, Randy Walker, John Ross, Janet Bond, Carol Simon, Attila Simon, and Kathy Dragonfly. Randy opened up explaining that the lot was 40 acres, and he pointed out to the left-hand side of Filterbed Road where buildings number 1 and 2 would be on the left side. He also pointed out stakes that were in the ground that would be the front corners of the building. Numbers 3 through 9 would be on the right side of the road. He said balloons had been up, but he did notice yesterday when he did an extensive walk-around that they had been down. Trees are 60 foot high. He pointed that out as the building would be 40 feet high. As we went down through, he showed us the various and sundry stakes for all of the lots on the right-hand side, and then he pointed out there was a back corner by number 9. You could see a building through the woods that he believed was owned by Mr. Druin, and also perhaps had boats stored in them. The town road was pointed out as ending at the sewer treatment plant, and when questioned, he advised that the Filterbed Road, although he had driven through, he would not recommend it. It's not really smooth enough for traffic, but it does come out on 109A. And he'd also pointed out another stake that was the end of the property on the left side of the road, opposite number 9. And that was it.
Okay, thank you. Sabette, would you sit as an alternate on this case?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Chuck.
First one.
Everybody ready? Or Mr. Randy Walker?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Randy Walker. I work for Walker and Varney here in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire. I'm here tonight with Jeremiah Burke and Cody Gray from Goodhue, and standing is Brian Walsh from Horizon Engineering. He's did the surveying and engineering work. We're here tonight asking for a special exception to permit a boatyard use, the purpose of which would allow Goodhue to build 9 new boat storage buildings on this site. Now, 10 years ago, this board approved a special exception to permit this property to be used as a boatyard. That was case number 10 SE 14. So arguably, it's already been approved for that use. However, the applicant, the town planner, as well as the code enforcement officer have all recommended that we come before this board and apply again, given the expansion of the number of buildings from what was approved 10 years ago. It's taken Goodhue Hawkins roughly 10 years to fill up the existing building. They need more capacity, which is why they're here this evening. You may ask why 9 buildings. It sounds like a lot. And I'll start by saying they probably all will never be built. Their plan is to build buildings as needed. 1 or 2 buildings, if they fill them up, they go to 3 and 4, they fill them up, et cetera, but they do not have the capability of filling them right now. So this is a long-term plan, and the reason that we're giving you sort of a global overview and what you have to presume if you approve it is going to be built out, is it just less expensive to do this all at once. If it goes piecemeal, and you deal with stormwater drainage and the engineering, et cetera, it gets expensive. They came back 9 times for 9 buildings. So they're trying to come in all at once with a global overview, but I've been assured that it took 10 years to fill up the first building. They will build the buildings. You'll also notice that all the buildings that are proposed are much smaller, so they can gradually meet the demand, and if they cap out on demand, they just won't continue to build the buildings. To me, this is a perfect location for this project. It's an isolated, remote area. You would not even be able to see the building that's there, despite its size, unless you physically drive to the site. Now, this is in the Pine Hill Road Development District. Obviously not visible. None of the buildings would be visible from Pine Hill Road, also known as Route 109A. The lot itself is one of the biggest in the district, second largest, roughly 40 acres, I think 40.51 according to the survey. And even if all 10 buildings, there's one now, but even if all 10 were built out, the density would be 10 buildings on 40 acres, which would be an average of 1 building for every 4 acres. It would be the least dense building storage facility we'd have in the town, just because the lot is so big. So it's a minimal density that they're asking for. It's also surrounded by woods on all sides. And even if it's fully built out, it's my estimation that 90% of this property would still be wooded. So it has very little total impact on the area. The use itself is also one of the least impactful uses that you could have. To me, it's like being next to a cemetery. It's a very quiet use. Don't even know that it's there. There are other permitted uses in this district, which would be much more intensive, both on-site and off-site. But the purpose of boat storage generally is to have the boats brought in the fall when they come out of the water around Columbus Day. They sit in the building all winter long, and then in the spring, they'll generally come out, get put back in the water. The building itself will stay empty generally all summer long, and then the boat will go back. So usually, if any one of us had a boat, it would go from either your house to that building, or from Goodhue to that building, and then from that building to Goodhue, or from the building to your house. So generally, there's one trip in and one trip out. Boatyard usage is defined in our ordinance in a single sentence. It's a parcel of land with or without buildings for the bulk storage of watercraft. So technically, we wouldn't need any buildings at all. We could have one big parking lot there, and that's the definition. Does not require a building. The reason that Goodhue would like a building and the other people in the area that have boat storage buildings is because they want to protect the boats, which makes sense. The winter elements here can be harsh. So even though a building isn't required for a boatyard use, they do plan on having them. 10 years ago, when the applicant applied for the existing building, they had this statement in their special exception application, which I'm going to read again, and I put it in the introduction of the special exception. It says, quote, boating and recreation are a vital and integral part of Wolfeboro's and the Lakes region's economy. Associated with that activity is the necessary business of boat storage. The cost and size of boats has steadily increased over the years, and the need for boat storage buildings in their sizes have increased as well. And that hasn't changed in 10 years. I don't think that's changed in 100 years. One of the reasons that we are America's oldest summer resort is because of our lakes. And with lakes inevitably come boats, and with boats come boat storage. So Goodhue is just trying to meet the existing demand that is there by having some buildings. Now, I walked around that site for 2 hours yesterday, for the third time last month, actually, and I couldn't see another building, despite the lack of leaves, and visibility is at its maximum. I could not see another building except for one boat storage building coming in off of 109A, which was just built last year. Either this board or the planning board approved, I don't remember which, but it just got built out. That's the only building you can see, because this site is heavily wooded. The trees, as you saw, were roughly 60 feet, maybe 70 feet tall, and although a lot of those trees would come down to build a building, the canopy around it is still 60 or 70 feet tall. I listed the building sizes, locations, types, and their capacity in the application. I won't repeat it again here. If this board is inclined to approve the special exception, obviously the planning board may have some restrictions on some of it. So with that introduction, let me get into the 8 criteria. We'll start with number 1, site suitability.
Hang on again, Mr.
Sure.
I'm going to try to put these up behind us so the audience can see can read the special criteria. Is it on?
It clicked on once and then it went off.
There.
There you go, you've got it.
Are we at the top?
Yep.
Okay.
So just to get you focused on this plan right here, the existing building is where my red dot is. And if we go over here, this is the Taylor community. They have approximately 20 buildings there. This is the Wolfeboro sewage treatment plant here. Down here is and I'm losing my light, is the Polini gravel pit or contractor yard. This is Pine Hill Storage, self-storage. They have, I think, 12 buildings there now. They just built 4 buildings in the last year or 2, more than what we're proposing, by the way.
Excuse me, Randy,
Sure.
that drawing won't be up there at all?
I asked for those. I didn't ask for that
Oh.
drawing.
Okay,
That's something you generated.
I
didn't
just
generate.
have one other quick question for Tavis, and then I'm sorry to interrupt you. Tavis, if he had that over by his podium, then is it possible for the TV people to put it up there? So that the people in the audience can see it?
If he has it next to it won't be up there, but it'll be on
won't.
TV. So he turned it this way so people in the audience could see it.
Okay. I'm just not certain they can see it, but,
It could go up here in this corner a little bit more towards the audience.
Put it in front of our table.
yeah.
Then they can't see me.
You have these plans already. You should have them in front of you.
We do.
We just would like the audience to see it a little bit
Yeah,
more.
sure. Then go ahead
No.
and
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
probably
And they
too
won't be
much,
able
though.
to. Yeah, if you
Back-
could move it up here and turn it a little more towards us. There, that's good.
perfect. That should be
Chuck, you
good.
can't see it. Are you good with that?
I'm fine, I can follow along here.
All right, so we good?
I didn't hear that.
I'm asking, can I continue on?
Yes, please. Move it back that way more? Up on the table?
Brian can do a dance too while he's up there.
Or you could just walk around with it. Yeah, I guess move it back where it was, although then these people can't see it, so.
Yeah.
You know, if you did put it right on that table, right next to Chuck, is that okay?
Yeah, you can put it up there.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry, Randy, I didn't
This
know
will be
that
a
was
first.
going to cause such a commotion, but I was misled because I thought when they talked about the screen, they were going to put the drawing up there.
This might become a thing.
Yeah. So, in the bottom middle of the plan was the Polini gravel pit right there. Over here is Pine Hill Self-Storage. That building is Wolfeboro Boat Storage. Over in here, which you can't see on this plan, but there'll be another plan, is 3 boat storage buildings right there for the Wolfeboro Corinthian Yacht Club. They've had them for about 60 years. The Druin buildings are in here. We then have Winnipesaukee lumber going out, and you're familiar with what's on Route 109A. But you'll notice that this site, particularly on the north side, it's just all woods, and the property does go across the street to that area. So the question is this site suitable for this use? And basically, is there adequate usable space? Absolutely. Over 40 acres of land, again, one of the second largest in the district. Adequate access, there's existing access right now over Filter Bed Road. And is there an absence of environmental constraints? And there are. There's an absence of environmental constraints. The lot is fairly level where these buildings will be built. Again, the property has already been approved once as a boatyard use, which this board obviously felt that that site was suitable 10 years ago. There are no jurisdictional wetlands that will be impacted by this project on site. There's no topographical challenges at all. Does not need to be engineered. There's a few little stormwater areas that will be addressed, but that's also with Planning Board and DES. So we believe the site is suitable for this use, particularly given the size of it. Number two, what's the immediate neighborhood impact? And that the proposal is not detrimental, injurious, offensive, or obnoxious to abutting properties in particular. And as you can see, all the abutting properties around this are pretty much commercial in nature. Will there be excessive trip generation? Again, one boat in and out once a year. There won't be excessive trip generation, particularly compared to other uses that this property could have. No noise or vibration. Boat storage buildings don't create any noise or vibration. There's no dust, glare, or heat. No smoke, fumes, gas rotors, and there are no inappropriate hours of operation. The biggest residential neighbor is going to be Taylor Community, and you can see they have over 20 building. Their use is much more impactful than this will be from whatever perspective. It's denser, more traffic, et cetera. Again, this traffic will be limited coming in and out of this project. I'll volunteer that if this is approved, Goodhue would be willing to pave the road from the end of the pavement where the town water treatment plant is up to the first building. That would keep down dust, not saying we'll build it to town specifications, but to pave it. And in particular, Goodhue met with some of the leadership at Taylor, and one of the things they said is that the trailers do generate some dust going in and out. Pavement would obviously solve that problem to make that road, which you could see was a little bumpy, smoother. So as a condition of approval, would be happy to do that. Planning Board might have required that in any event, but they're willing to do that again. They want to be a good neighbor. They're trying to help. They're receptive to what their neighbors have said, and I think that'll go a long way to help that particular neighbor, even though they're fairly far away. Number three, that there will be no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic. And again, we don't believe that there will be any. Filter Bed Road has been used for years by Kimball Lumber Company. They used to have a hardware store there, a lumber yard. There's now Wolfeboro Boat Storage is there. Across the street is a contractor yard. That traffic, all of those uses generated their own traffic. And Goodhue, of course, has been coming down, but there's been no issues at all or undue nuisances or serious hazards to pedestrian and vehicular traffic. Again, it's really just continuing the status quo. Number four, availability of public service and facilities. They don't really need any. Electricity is already there, and that would be the only public utility that is needed. They don't have any use for sewer, water, fire protection, police, streets. There's no impact on schools. Again, just need electricity to go to the buildings. So it should have no impact at all on public services. They will need at some point an alteration of terrain permit and stormwater drainage. Of course, they'll do that through Planning Board and/or the DES for those things. Number five, the site plan. You were given a number of plans. I thought they did an excellent job. Horizon's providing the plans. They also hired an architect to design these buildings. I have pictures that can show you what the buildings will look like, if that would be helpful. There is no parking scheme because there's no parking at the site. There's no traffic circulation. A truck will usually come with a boat, put the boat in the rack, it will leave. Open space, as I indicated earlier, it's my estimate that even if this project were fully built out, it would be 90% woods, and if I'm wrong on the math, it's 80%. Whatever it is, it's significant. There's no proposed fencing or screening. There's no reason for fencing, and the screening is all natural. They don't plan on doing any landscaping. Again, it is all natural. They have no request for a sign at all. Haven't had a sign there in 10 years. And from a lighting perspective, they are happy to put lighting on the buildings, but I can assure you that they would like to do the minimal amount possible. They will not be internally lit, by the way, but they would prefer to have no lighting at all. If the planning board required it, they obviously will do what's minimally required, but the plan is to have no lighting. So we believe the site plans that you've been presented with are appropriate and address those issues. Number 6, what's the immediate neighborhood integrity? What uses are in the neighborhood and what recent trends have been in the neighborhood? And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the self-storage buildings in Pine Hill, they built 3 or 4 different buildings there. They have over 12 buildings on their site, and either this board or the planning board just approved 2 boat storage buildings off of 109A, which directly abut this. So the trends in the neighborhood are to do just this. I do have a handout that I can give you.
Where are we?
And these are aerial shots that are a little bit dated.
Thank you.
That will show you what some of the neighboring properties are like and the neighborhood. And so the first picture, if we could just turn them together. First picture is Winnipesaukee Lumber. And you can see the buildings, the vehicles there coming in and out. The second picture is what I believe are what I call the Druin buildings that have just been built. And we lose.
Where are we?
So we can go back to I'm just on the
Oh,
pictures.
you're on the pictures.
I'm just
Okay.
going through the pictures. But the first one shows Winnipesaukee Lumber.
I think it's actually called Bell Tates.
Say again?
I think it's actually called Bell Tates now.
Okay.
Yes, Hancock Lumber, I'm dating myself, thank you, but they have trucks coming and going all day long, 6 days a week, cars in and out all day long. The next picture, picture number 2, is the Druin Boat Storage Building that just was built within the last year or two. Picture number 3 is the Wolfeboro Corinthian Yacht Club. They have 3 buildings there. I believe they were built in the 60s or 70s. And most people don't even know that they're there. And you can drive by these 3 buildings despite their size. And if you notice in the foreground is where Pine Hill Storage is. You can see those Pine Hill Storage buildings just to get a reference, because most people don't even know those buildings are in the woods there. The next picture is Pine Hill Storage itself. And this picture was taken before they put 4 more buildings on this site. The next picture is either the Druin site before those buildings were put up or the Pelini gravel pit. I must confess, I'm not sure which, but it's one of the neighbors. The next picture is the propane tank is Wolfeboro Plastiques, and in the background you'll see Eastern Propane. The next picture is Wicker's building. The next one is GI Plastique, which I believe is the largest private employer in Wolfeboro. As cars coming and going all day long, they were running 3 shifts for a while. The next picture is the SAU building in the Pine Hill Road District. You'll see 22 school buses. I counted them out for you there. They come and go twice a day. The next one is what I call the Headwall Construction Building. The next one is Carrier Construction. And at the bottom of that picture is Filterbed Road, where it comes out onto 109A. And then the next picture will show, again, Filterbed Road dividing. It's a self-storage building, and I don't know who owns that to have a name. but those are again on the corridor. The next picture just shows the Pineo sort of woodlot across the street, a couple of pictures of that. And the rest of those pictures are just showing things that you've already seen. And the last one is the woods where the current property is located. So that's what's around us. I didn't take a picture of the sewage treatment plant. We've probably all been there, and we know what that looks like. So that by allowing this use, it will not have any negative impact or in any way impact trends, and if anything, it's consistent with the trends which have recently been to build both self-storage units, which are a permitted use in this district, by the way. They do not need to come before this, but it's a permitted use, which I'm a little surprised at because that has more traffic flow with people coming and going to their units, or a boat usually just once a year. Number 7, will there be an impact on property values of surrounding properties? The answer to that, I believe, is no. Again, this board determined 10 years ago that the building that's there didn't have any impact on it, and it's consistent with other uses in the area. And given the size of this property, again, 40 acres, it's very well sheltered, should not be visible. And I'll note that in 2014, when the board had its site visit to this property, it didn't have its site visit. The note said that they waived the site visit because the site was too remote. If you go back and look at the minutes, it said it was done aerially, which is one of the beauties of this project. It's isolated. You know, it's at the end of Filter Bed Road, basically on a dead-end road. It's a private road, not a town road. So it's really one of the most innocuous uses you could have on this property, despite the number of buildings. They also have a letter from Adam Dow. You mentioned at the last hearing that no realtor said anything, and I have a letter from Adam. And for those of you that don't know Adam Dow, he's the owner of Keller Williams here in Wolfeboro. It's the #1 agent in New Hampshire. They sold over $1.2 billion of property, which he indicates in here. And it's his position that if this project is fully built out, it will not have a negative impact on any of the surrounding properties. You can read the letter for yourself, but that's the summary of it. And then number 8, is the proposed use consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan? And thank you. And that, and it is. This is permitted as a special exception. This ordinance was specifically amended in 2010 to allow this use in this district. And that's how Goodhue was able to get its first building there. And there's probably no better example of complying with the spirit of the ordinance than to have it be specifically injected so that people can actually put this use in that area. And again, this board has already approved this use once on that exact site. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but we believe we meet all 8 criteria, and we respectfully request that this board approve the application as submitted.
Randy, I have a quick question.
Sure.
What is the driving route? Okay, so they would go out Filter Bed to Friend, to get back over to the boathouse.
How do they get there?
Yeah, like what, because not all of the buildings, not all of the businesses that you talked about go out that same route, correct? They go a different way, don't they?
Well, Kimball's Lumber would have gone out that way for 40 years. The contractor yard across the street would go out that way. Goodhue, of course, has been going out that way for 10 years. The sewage treatment plant comes and goes. So that road's been used, commercially for a long, long time. And of course, once you get out onto Filter Bed, at the end of it, once you take a left, you get to the Olympia Gym. They got traffic coming and going, MT Bank. You got the dentist across the street. So there's a lot of traffic once you get in there anyway.
Well, what's the other way you access Filter Bed? I know I did it a different way, back when it was, which way did we go when we were going to see Jordy's property?
109A.
109A? Right, okay, so a lot of so many of those businesses may be going in and out of 109A. Their route is Bryn Street to, then crossing Main Street, then down Sewell?
Yep.
Okay.
To the extent that they go there, and some of the times they'll take a boat out of this building and take it to a customer's, home or dock, but to the extent they go down to Goodhue, they'll go down Sewell Road. I don't know whether they go down Friend or Mill, but one of the two for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Middle Street,
Yes.
Okay.
may I ask a
Middle
question?
Street and
Yes.
Libby sometimes.
Okay. I have our packet of information here, Randy.
Could you
And-
talk into your microphone, please? I can't hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
I
you.
have the packet of information here, and unfortunately, the pages aren't numbered, but you sent a letter requesting that the 38-foot height on buildings number 3, 4, 5, and 6 be changed to 40 feet. And you had a chart. And then there is the application itself, and right after page 8 for the application, there is another chart, and then there's 14 pages here, which contain 9 charts, and they all have different dimensions on them for the heights. They start out with, here, on the drawings, 27 feet for number 1, number 7, number 8, and number 9, 30 feet for number 2, 38 feet for 3, 4, 5, 6. In your letter, they are
Pairing them.
30 feet for 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 40 feet for 3, 4, 5, 6. In the application, it's 30 feet for 1, 36 feet for number 2.
We're not
Sarah,
doing the height.
we're not doing the height
use.
variance.
I'd just like to find out about the accuracy of the application, if I could finish my question.
But that's a different application.
This is B. This is item B. So if I could continue, it
I
has
need
number
to ca-
1 is
I need to
30
catch up
feet,
to where
number
you
2 is
are.
36, 40 feet for 3, 4, 5, 6, 30 feet for 7, 8, 9. So I was just trying to check on the application to see what was accurate for it before we got into it too deep.
So,
That was an introductory letter explaining the changes between when they submitted the application to clarify, but that's for when we do the next one. That's when we do the height.
It's contained in this application. I'm trying to ascertain what information is correct in this application, and that's it. All he has to do is say, yes, this chart is correct, or no, that chart is correct.
yes, this chart is correct in the application. Your final numbers in the application, just below the introductory paragraph, it was 30, 36, 40, 40, 40, 30, 30, 30. Those are the correct numbers.
I see that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think he also corrected the capacity. I think that was changed too.
That did adjust as well, thank you. But the application has the final numbers in it. This project obviously has evolved over time, and but those are the final numbers that they're looking for. And again, if we get the planning board, they may have something to say about all of that.
Can I?
Sure.
Since you brought it up in 2014, I remember you, and I remember that application because I sat at this very table, and I made the motion to approve that building for approximately 300 storage units, boats. I also remember it being said that about the impact, that it wasn't going to have a big impact, and it was, it could grow slightly. So I'm echoing the same thing from you in that you're saying, well, we're asking for 9 buildings, but we aren't going to build 9 all at once. But once you get that approval, unless we say Building 1 will be built in 2024, Building 2 will be built in 25, and so forth. What you say and what happens, we can't control that.
I absolutely agree, and I mentioned that in my introductory remarks, that that's the plan, and if you approve it, they absolutely would have the right to build all 9, just indicating that that is not the plan. As you can see, they took 10 years to go from one building to even trying to get a second one.
Well, my point is the promises or the suggestions of what would happen if we approved it was the turnoff at the sewage treatment plant would be improved. There was discussion about the access. Hausman said currently the boat storage is using Mill Street to Bay Street and 109. So in good faith, there was an approval based on intentions. I have learned in the last 10 years, good intentions don't hold water. So tonight, I'm looking for specific answers to specific questions. And one of them is, you address the neighborhood, the immediate neighborhood. You're proposing over a period of how many years to have 1,162 boats, public personal watercrafts, plus the 300 comes to 1,162 trips out, to take them out. That machine has to come back in. And then in the off-season, when they're putting them away. So I get 2,324. And I don't think I'm even counting the trips that they come back with to get the next load. And when you talk about the immediate neighborhood, I will go back to number 2. You want to put, can you put number 2 back up there?
I will try my best.
If you can. And it says, the immediate neighborhood impact, that the proposal is not detrimental, injurious.
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 And it says to the abutting properties, and that's what you've been addressing all night. What you have not addressed, and to the neighborhood in general, typical impacts which extend beyond the proposed site include, and then you talk about excessive trips. This is going to cross, if you don't go 109, if you go out Filter Bed, it's going to go up Friend Street. Those people have the same rights of peace and enjoyment as anyone else in this town. Those trips are excessive, and it's not going to give them the peace and enjoyment of their sitting out in their yard. And then it goes down Sewell Road, the premier road in Wolfeboro.
I thought that was Stoneham Road.
So, no, thankfully. So they go down Sewell Road. Now, when Goodhue Hawkins was built back in 19 whatever, it was built as a community asset, and it was small, and it's grown, and it's grown. I'm wondering if it has not outpaced its capacity for growth. A lot of boatyards have off-site storage that's within reach, or they have land that's close to their marina. This is going to disturb 2 neighborhoods, and I don't think it's in the best interest of I'm not buying your story.
I hear what you're saying, Suzanne.
And one last thing that the public needs to know. Filter Bed Road is not a road in the eyes of the laws of the state of New Hampshire. We call it a road. It's not a road. There is an easement and a right-of-way through that whole property. It's not a road. So, if a road is defined as Class 5 or better, you know the whole road thing. I don't have to go through it. So even if you get proved tonight, you're going to have to come back in for a special exception for our ordinance. I don't know what I did with it. For a road. Class 6 road category, 67441.
It's not a Class 6 road.
He has no frontage on a road.
He has frontage on 109. The parcel.
No, that's an easement through there.
The parcel,
No. We have
parcel
frontage on
touches
Route
109.
The property has frontage on Route 109A.
Oh, then why don't you go out that way?
It's a lot longer.
Well, that's the price of business has to pay. I've said my piece.
So you've covered a lot of property that I have in like 20 questions here. That was a good job, but I'd like to drill down a little bit.
So can I respond to the question? So we had a lot of expansion in town. You know, the Board of Selectmen used to have 3 members. We now have 5. Hunters has been expanded, you know, size-wise. We are growing as a town. And one of the things that is growing is the need for boat storage. And, you know, Goodhue could have a boat storage building in Brookfield or Ossipee and still bring these boats to their facility in Wolfeboro, which we couldn't control at all. You know, the reason they bought this property, because it is fairly close, it's in a remote area, and it will go through those neighborhoods. But I'm thinking just as I speak, I drive by Sarah's house 750 times a year. Going to work, coming back 2 times a day, 365 days a year. That's just 765 for one person. You do the same thing probably. So if there's just 4 of us, that gets you to that number that you clicked out. It's not a lot of traffic. 1 boat in and 1 boat out, a couple of times a year is minimal traffic. Now, if we had Taylor Community or some other facility like that, which by the way is a wonderful project, the traffic flow would be much heavier. So it's minimal traffic compared to other uses on the property.
Randy, when I first started coming to Wolfeboro 30 some odd years ago, we rented on Sewell. And one of the joys was to walk Sewell Road with my dog and my kids. And the last couple of years when I've tried to do that, it is just downright unsafe. I mean, maybe there are just one trip, but the speed, the size of the trucks or the vehicles going down, I'm thinking Sewell, I don't go down Friend, but walking Sewell is an impossibility. And it's currently, it's not safe.
Your turn.
Just putting everything out there. I mean, this is my first meeting, so I hate to ask, but we're talking about now just driving in and out, or are we talk about anything?
Well, we can bring up anything. We're just,
Well, let me stay with the traffic.
Okay.
Since we've been on that. Randy, is the valet parking, like, remember I used to lease Paul's building, and I used to do the valet customers, which were a phone call, I want to go boating. Is that done at the water?
Yeah, this would have no impact on valet. None of these
They're not
boats
going to
are
do any valet
None of
parking
them.
out of those buildings?
No. They have boat storage on Sewell Road, a couple
And
hundred
that's-
boats there.
Yeah, so they'll use
All the valet is through
valet
that
is out of
building.
there?
There's no valet at all. I saw a couple of letters that was not accurate at all. There's no valet out of this building at all.
Okay, I guess my next question would be, I've seen it a million times, when the guys are trying to bring the bigger boats, back down to the marina or to bring them to that big storage building right now. When they're coming up Main Street, I see them to turn into, what is it, what are the main roads they use?
Mill.
Mill?
It would be Mill, Friend, and Libby. When they turn into any of those with a bigger boat, they have to go almost in the other lane of the traffic. I used to do the boats around town myself, and I know it, you know, I've seen them a million times going in over the yellow line to make the corner in there. I just wanted to make that point on, you know, that's sort of a hazard for that. But as far as the other issues, that's about it.
Go ahead.
I just want to follow that up with, I lived on the corner of Mill and North Main for 10 years, so I saw a lot of boats take that corner, and they don't take a square corner. They are absolutely in the other lane. Yeah. Okay, Sarah?
Chuck has a question, too.
Chuck?
I'm a numbers guy, so my question is, there's a building there now that stores boats. How many boats are stored there right now?
On Sewell Road or on Filter Bed?
No, on filter bed.
So I've actually never been in the building itself, but I heard 300. I think they may have more than that in there, but I'm not sure on the number.
So apparently they're at capacity and they want to build at least one more building now, I
Right.
assume. But, so what is,
I mean, so if you look at the chart, if they built building one, that would increase boat storage by 12. If they built one of the bigger buildings, that would increase it by 190. You know, either building 3, 4, or 5, those are each 160 boats per building with 30 for sea-doos, basically.
right. So as a business, I assume that they're looking at projected numbers. So I'm just curious, what are they storing now versus what are they looking at and needing storage for in the next couple of years, in which case they would build another building of some dimension?
My understanding is, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but they would plan on building like 1, 2, and perhaps 3, 2 smaller ones, and then one big one at the hill, which would give a capacity of 12 more boats for building 1, 60 for building 2, and 190, which would be 250, 260 boats. Is sort of the plan. Again, they don't want to overbuild. There's
Right.
obviously more competition in the area because these other buildings have been built.
So that's the immediate plan, is another 250-something boat capacity in addition to roughly 300 currently. Something in that order.
That would be a fair assessment.
Thank you.
Audrey?
So I have another question. Am I correct in thinking variances and special exceptions only last a certain amount of time before you have to come back if you're not vested?
That'd be a better question for Tavis.
I'm sorry, what?
That would be a better question for Tavis. But
So, yes, in general, special exceptions and variances each by right come with a 2-year that can then get extended by planning board action for
Planning board or ZBA?
planning board. So if a project only needed a special exception and then obtained that and then had planning board approval, that would last longer than the 2 years.
It lasts 5 years.
Correct, plus another 6 months, I believe.
So I'm having a hard time understanding.
Unless it's vested.
It doesn't sound like you're describing a vested project at doubling this price, which is still, doubling the number, which is still less than half of the total build-out. So what is the thinking behind that?
so it came down to cost. I mean, to come before this board, the planning board, Department of Environmental Services, it's getting increasingly expensive. And one of the things that they looked at was like stormwater drainage. You know, it's easy to do it for 9 buildings all at once, rather than do a building and build, let's say, a pond, build a second building, you now have to expand the pond, get all the equipment back in, and it just, from a soft cost perspective, it was better. And if I were in your shoes, I would have preferred the overview global proposal, even if it isn't going to get built out, and I suspect that you've hit the nail on the head, and I was looking at a variance that's good for 2 years, I think. And if they don't build it out, they will lose that grandfathering, and that will be a problem. But they...
Right, so they would have all the
long-term-
engineering done, but there could be changes to the regulations, there could be changes to the reading of the regulations,
Yep.
and that work would need to be at least updated, if not completely redone.
All true.
Okay,
Again,
just
they were
wanted to
trying to
make
get an
sure of that.
overview for it.
I have a lot more, but go ahead.
Yeah, let me give mine, and then Tavis he's got
Okay.
his hand up too. I also had a question about the 2 years and how much of a project had to be completed to establish vested rights, and I guess that would be 50%, or how do they determine that? But my second question was, we have various size buildings, so I assume that's to accommodate various size boats, and I wondered what the range in the length of boats would be. We all know that the personal waterfowl is, very small, but what about the length of the larger boats? Because I'm thinking, we already have one of those intersections up there where you can barely get one car through because of the fencing. And we know not how long that project will go, because I believe there has finally been a stay order issued. So does anyone know about the average size of these boats, the largest boat, the smallest boat?
Boats have generally been getting bigger over time.
Are we talking 24 feet? We're talking 35 feet? We're talking 40-footers? What are we talking here? Winnipesaukee pretty big. Go up there if you want to say something, please, after you identify yourself. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jeremiah Burke. I'm the general manager of the Goodhue location here in Wolfeboro. So as far as boat size is concerned, certainly they've been getting bigger over the years. But I would say that on average, boats that we store and service are somewhere in that range of 23 to 26, 8 feet. If you were to look at the smaller size, PWCs, Sea-Doos, they're at about 10 feet. The largest size boat that we have, and which is very uncommon, there's very few of these, would be 33, max 35 feet is really the biggest, and there's maybe 3 to 5 of those size boats. Like I said, generally, most of the sizes are in that 23 to 27, 8 feet.
Are there limitations you would put on them based on the storage unit sizes?
Limitations on?
The length. So for example, I've just seen some of those huge boats, so I'm wondering if you would just say, no, you got to go to somebody at the other end of the lake.
Yeah, so there are a lot of marinas around the lake that service and store and very large boats, much larger than what we have and handle. Part of it's the capacity of the building, but it's also the capacity of the equipment and the infrastructure that you have, and the water access that you have. We are just not set up and where we are to service a large number of very large boats. And from what we have, and from generally our customer base is that range of 23 to 27. I mean, that's a general size runabout boat that's very popular for the size of the lake now, not like it was before, but certainly that's, so we really don't have a large capacity to handle really large boats, just a handful.
Audrey, I have a question for him.
Yeah, so do I. Go ahead.
So when I went to the site visit today, I kind of took some wrong turns, and I ended up going through the Taylor community and seeing the new housing thing. I kind of came at it a back way. And one of the letters that one of the Wolfeboro citizens wrote is that they hear a constant beep, 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 or there's a lot of noise associated with the loading and the unloading or whatever of these boats in the marina. So I'm wondering, at the filter bed facility where you're loading and unloading, is there also going to be noise? I think Randy said in the proposal, no, it's quiet, but do you actually hear some of that beep, beep, beep? Because I'm thinking that Taylor community, I know they're old, but they can probably still hear that beep, beep, beep.
So what that's referring to is, any type of large truck, piece of equipment, forklift, I mean, there's a safety
Right, the backup.
you know, and so the customer and so what that is what's referring to.
Could it carry all the way over there in that kind of like,
These noises, that customer that's talking about that is on the water and literally next door to the marina. That's the home where she, 2 doors down, sorry, is the home where she resides, who's a customer of ours. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're within, 50 yards, which the intent and purposes of a backup beeping is for safety, you're going to hear it, but I don't believe that beeping and that noise is heard any further in the Taylor community. I don't think that is loud enough. You could hear it if it's in the room, but it's not that loud.
okay.
It's designed as someone walking behind the forklift to know that piece of equipment is backing up and should be looking for, you need to look out for yourself. The driver may not be able to see you if you're right behind the equipment.
Okay.
Do you have backup beepers on the vehicles that pull the trailers down with the boats on them?
No. They're standard, regular pickup trucks, there's dozens and hundreds of them around with landscaping companies and trailers and, similar type vehicle. It's what we use to move the boats with.
How many fork trucks are you to have in there? That would be making, doing this beeping. That's
Yeah,
all.
so we have a total of 3 that are boat moving equipment that are spread out between the locations.
But as more buildings get built, it'll probably need more up there, right? At that site?
One should be able to handle that up there. Generally speaking, we bring one over to the marina, and so we have a second one there at the Sewell Road property, and one is operating out over the other building.
Okay.
Suzanne?
Yes, I don't want this to get lost, what I said about Filter Bed Road. Filter Bed Road is not a road.
I wanted
No,
them to explain
wait.
Filter Bed Road to me.
I am.
No, not you. I want him
Well,
to
wait,
explain.
I want to clear up, Tavis said he has frontage.
Right.
Well, the statute refers to the street giving access to the lot. It's not a street. Generally, the lot must have actual frontage on one of 5 types of streets described in 674-41. An easement giving access over the land of another will not meet the statutory standard unless the easement itself is either a public highway or shown on a recorded plat approved by the planning board. And then there was a case, and the case clears it up, and it says the street giving access to the lot means a street or way abutting the lot upon which the lot has frontage. It does not include a street from which the sole access to the lot is via a private easement or a right-of-way unless the easement or right-of-way also meets the criteria set above. If it's not a class 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, it's not a street. And the town has not maintained the portion beyond the sewer plant, and it has to be maintained for 5 years or more, and it's been abandoned it's not ever been maintained by the town, and it does not have frontage according to the statute. And what my point is, there's a way to get from here to there, no pun intended, but you have to come back for a special exception under 175-55 because you don't have a class road and you don't have frontage. An easement, and your deed shows it, as an easement for specific reason, and it didn't make an easement by a plat. So board members, keep that in mind, please.
So what is the nature of that travel way?
It's an easement, Filter Bed Road is an easement. That's three
So
or four
say that
prop-
again? I couldn't hear you.
It's an easement. 3 or 4 property owners in that area have the right to go
Which
over.
property owners?
The Quimby property, this property, Wera, I believe, and I didn't look at this aspect coming in, but it might be a 4th property, but it's basically the property owners that touch it had the right reciprocally to go over it, but we do have frontage on Route 109A coming in on Land Bank Lane, so it does
What
have
is the footage of that frontage?
50, maybe even 60.
50.
However, that's not how you get to the property,
It's not how they get to the property.
which is, I think, your point.
Yep.
What?
That's not how they service the property. They service it
The
down
statute
Filter Bed
requires
Road.
frontage on a class 1 through 5. It does not require access from said frontage.
Which is probably why this board approved it 10 years ago.
So I'm just looking back at,
That conflicts with what Suzanne just said.
So let's just presume Suzanne is correct. I don't think that's the case, but let's presume she is, then if we have to come back, we come back. Doesn't affect this application, whether this can be used as a boatyard or not.
So, if that were all cleared up and you, this property owner was going to improve that travel way not to town standards, I'm not even sure that's acceptable if that's got right-of-way for other property owners. I guess we haven't talked about the impact of this on the 160 housing units that are approved abutting this property and what the relationship between this property and those people and this road and those people are. So do you have any,
there is no housing project approved.
excuse me?
There is no housing project approved.
I do believe we approved one.
No, you approved variances for density and for height, but that project has been withdrawn.
Yeah, it never went to the planning board.
It's still approved until it runs out, correct?
The variance, yes.
Yes,
not
right. So
not housing.
it's still live in my
No, the
mind.
purchase and sale fell through. That applicant is gone.
We don't know that. It's a
I'll
two- it's a
represent that
two-year.
that is the
It's a
case.
2-year approval.
The approval's still good, the P&S did die.
Okay. But we approved a project, so
We did.
in my mind, somebody could still build that project.
They could.
Okay. So I have questions about that relationship and the road frontage and how those people interact with this project here. I don't know about all the other things you were talking about as far as the right-of-way, but the improvement of the road and the traffic, the joint traffic that comes out of Filter Bed Road or is traveled by these people onto the town part of Filter Bed Road when this area does get developed concerns me. So that's
Audrey,
not been addressed.
I have a suggestion. We're asking all the questions. I think that we should let the public.
I want to ask a few more, and then I'll open the public.
Okay.
Let's see. Could I have the young man who's the manager back up at the podium?
I'm glad you said I'm a young man. I don't feel as young as I used to be.
Can you tell us, like, what percentage of boats that you have now are registered to Wolfeboro people?
I don't know that that information is very easily known.
Well, the town clerk knows it, but I didn't have access to the town clerk, so.
Yeah, so that are registered to Wolfeboro residents.
Wolfeboro property owners.
Property owners. So,
Yeah.
I mean, certainly there's a lot of property owners in Wolfeboro that we store and service their boats. Additionally, there's things like in South Wolfeboro Bay where there's kind of associations that have dock spaces, and there's a lot of island homes, barn door, little barn door, places like that are customers that we have that we service and store their boat and launch it for them when they need it. I don't know what percentage.
How many boats do you have now, like altogether?
Between, and we're talking PWCs, so Sea-Doos, which are very, 10 feet, up to, the larger sizes boats. We have approximately 800 total boats in storage between the storage buildings.
Okay, so if we're talking about then, at full build-out, you're more than doubling that number.
So what's happened?
Let me finish my
Sure.
question. So I guess my concern is Wolfeboro carrying the weight of the traffic and the use of the roads for delivery of boats for people who don't live in Wolfeboro or don't own property in Wolfeboro, and where the impact is on our infrastructure and in the neighborhoods that you're passing through, and it's not serving Wolfeboro?
So, there certainly are a number of boats and customers that we service in Wolfeboro, and like every other marina on the lake, they service boats around the lake and the lake's region. Where I believe that there is a good impact is certainly these customers and people are coming to Wolfeboro. They're spending their dollars in Wolfeboro, they're recreating in Wolfeboro, they're supporting businesses that are in Wolfeboro who support the jobs of the residents of Wolfeboro. And so I think there is certainly definitely a positive economic impact for the community, whether somebody actually lives here and boats on the lake, but they come to Wolfeboro. They love to come to the docks in Wolfeboro, go to the places to dine and eat in Wolfeboro. So I think that the economic impact, even though the boat may not be actually in Wolfeboro or their dock may not be in Wolfeboro, certainly brings dollars to Wolfeboro to support our local economy. Which is great. I mean, this is I grew up here. I
Yep.
was born in the area. I've lived here my whole life, just about, and it's a wonderful place to come, and and because of the people and because of what the families and.
Can you
memories
tell
that
me
they make.
where the boats get drained and serviced? Are you going to have a facility in this area for draining the boats prior to storage and then
Yeah, so
refilling
we have a very, as you can imagine, we have a very systematic process in place to store and winterize and take care of those functions that a boat needs to go through. That all happens at the marina at Sewell Road, where they get that process is completed there before it goes over to the storage site.
So
you
they
drain
essentially
all-
all go in and out of,
Can you, so we're going to have up to 1,000 boats cleaned at the marina in addition to what they have?
Yeah.
that's what I was actually
is that-
going for. So
Sorry, I didn't quite.
no matter
understand the
where you
question.
take them, or you take them out at the marina and then you take them, you drain them and clean them, and then you bring them over into storage. You don't bring them in the storage area and then drain them and clean them?
Correct.
You do it all at the marina?
Yeah, so when we did the reconstruction, if you've been over to the Sewell Road, the infrastructure was set up for us to be able to do that efficiently right there at the marina.
Is there a limit on how your infrastructure, how many your infrastructure can handle with that?
Yeah, certainly. There's only so much that you can do in a day, and and so there are limitations on what you can do for sure.
Can I
can
ask
you
him a
tell
question?
me,
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you winterize, you leave no fuel in the boats? Or do you add something to the fuel to winterize it?
Yeah, we've stabilized it. We add a fuel additive to the fuel.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you presently lock your facility or fence your facility on Filter Bed Road? Like, where's your security for that?
We have a security camera, and the doors and boat doors and man doors are locked.
So your current site plan that's approved with your current special exception, does that include all the outside storage of trailers and whatnot we saw today?
I might have to defer that question, but part of the challenge and some of the reason behind this is a lot of these boats that you saw outside the building, outside is because the building is full, essentially. I would prefer to store those boats in a building. They're better, like Mr. Walker said, takes care of them better, they're out of the elements. And so a lot of the boats that are going to be populating these new buildings are actually physically already there.
But the trailers don't go in the buildings ever, right? I mean, you put them on racks, so where do the trailers go?
Yeah, sometimes a boat will be on a trailer that will be in a building, potentially. So it just...
Is there any trailer parking that is expected here, and where is it?
So you would be able to park trailers on the bottom of those storage buildings. Because it's the ground level, you would be able to back a trailer in underneath those spaces.
And then have 3 boats on top?
On the bottom, yeah, on the ground level.
Well, do you expect to have any outside storage?
Well, just back to kind of the trailers is, trailers are almost kind of they're a necessity, but really a lot of those trailers are customer owned. So we're going through process to try to get some of those trailers back to those people. And I really don't want to be in a trailer storage business. We're in a boat storage business. And so we're working on reducing the number of trailers that are actually around. But there is capacity to be able to put them on the bottom floor of those buildings.
So I guess my last comment is, when I look at this, you're building out as if you're not ever going to share that road. It's like all your movement areas and whatnot. So the easement across that for other people that have, the right to go across it seems to be really greatly impacted. And if it's improved, I still see that it's basically not meant for anybody but you guys, and that bothers me.
Well, certainly, and I guess just a couple, and I don't know if this will help, but we've been on Sewell Road for a long time, and same thing, same scenario. There's a building on one side of Sewell Road, and the marina's on the other side of Sewell Road.
I think a lot of people are aware of that.
And it's been operating that way for 120 years.
Okay, that's it for my list.
Can we, we've been...
Are we done?
An hour, over an hour. We've been...
We have a lot of questions.
We can ask questions after. Let the
Okay.
public have a chance. We've been over an hour asking our questions.
And we asked good ones.
Yes, we did,
Thank
but
you.
could we let the public have a chance at it?
Thank you, if you want to sit down. Would somebody like to speak in favor of this project? Would somebody, yes. Yes, please, and identify yourself. Please speak to the board, not to the other applicants or the other people here.
Fine. My name is Julie Wood, and I live in the Taylor community. So we're not all ancient yet, but, and I spend a lot of time walking out the back end of Taylor, of this circle of our neighborhood, and up Filter Bed and up into the Abenaki trails. So it's a lovely walk. And actually, the reason I'm speaking in positive tones for Goodhue is because we often use their road to walk up it in the wintertime, because it's sometimes very hard to walk in Abenaki. So they've been very accommodating to not being weirded out by us walking by them. The only consideration I would ask you to have in terms of some of the statements that were made tonight was this gentleman suggesting that they go out once and come back once, not quite true. There is a lot of coming and going all day long. Sometimes it's just a truck, and sometimes it's a truck trailing a boat. But I got to a point where I was giggling because I thought maybe they were taking the boats out for air, because I couldn't really figure out why they were trailing a boat that was covered with shrink wrap and not going to be serviced, but it would go out and it would come back. And didn't know what that was about, so maybe the boat needed a ride, I don't know. But anyway, so there's odd behavior all winter long. We've lived there now for this is our second winter that we've lived there, so we've been watching a lot of this. And the other thing I would ask the Goodhue folks to really pay attention to is the GPS sends the boat carriers that are bringing boats to that storage facility through Taylor very frequently. And we had an 18-wheeler with 2 huge boats on it come through our neighborhood and get to the corner. Now, they've just built a new nursing facility inside our neighborhood, and it got to the corner of the 2 places, and they're both small roads for them to go around. It was pouring rain. The connection from our neighborhood to filter bed was chopped up and mud, and this guy was going to try to take his boats to his destination. So we suggested that maybe he'd like to go back around and go the 3 ways around, and he managed to do that. But that was an enormous regular 18-wheeler sized truck. So it's not little trucks necessarily that are bringing boats through there either. And they are very frequently told by their GPS to come through our neighborhood.
That's what happened to me today.
Exactly.
Is I was following GPS,
Exactly.
and that's how I ended up going
Very
through your
commonly.
neighborhood.
Very commonly. So, and we have a lot of elderly folks now with the assisted living. They're out walking our neighborhood to try to keep mobile, and they don't hear and they don't see necessarily. They are often debilitated enough to be bent over. So if traffic's coming behind them, they don't necessarily know it. And if the boat tower doesn't know where they are and what neighborhood they're in, there may be a problem coming together at some point if the traffic increases. And the other thing is that right now when the boats are towed, they make a lot of noise on the trailer as they bang over the potholes. So if they're going to pave that will make a huge difference. So I want to speak positively for the idea of paving filter bed if they end up.
I think the road is a town road at that point behind
When
Taylor
they come out of
Homes.
their driveway and get down to where Abenaki and the electrical road is, that's still dirt, and it gets chopped up in the wintertime. And so when they're riding over that, we hear the banging of the trailers until they reach the paved road, and then it gets quiet after that. So if they're going to pave from where they said they are, that's great, because that'll help. So,
May I ask you a question?
Yes,
Did
please.
you say you observed a lot more coming and going in the winter? It sounded like from what Randy said, there's not a lot of coming and going in the winter.
It's all
but
year. There's people coming and going up into the facility and activity at the facility all winter long. They're moving boats around in the actual campus, but they're also bringing boats to there, bringing boats away from there, and trucks. Their trucks come and go. So it doesn't slow down for wintertime. So, and then it's very busy in the fall and the spring. So anyway, thank you.
My name is Bob Lemaire, Wolfeboro resident, live on Sewell Road. I had a few comments here. First of all, I'd just like to start out by saying that I've been here for 25 years, and the Goodhue Marina has done services for me. I think it's pretty well run. I think the people are generally helpful. What I'm concerned about here is this explosive growth that's being set up to happen. And there was some controversy 10 years ago when the other one went in. People said there's going to be an increase in traffic. It's come true, and this is an order of magnitude larger. So I want to just make a few comments about it. This is not establishing a boatyard on Filter Bed Road. This is establishing an extension of the boatyard on Sewell Road. And virtually, there's no public-facing element to what's being proposed on Filter Bed Road. The public-facing element is the Sewell Road facility That's where people come to get a service, and their employees shuttle things back and forth to the other facility to make things happen. But we're talking about increasing the load on that facility on Sewell Road. And to that extent, when you say not contrary to the public interest, I think you'll probably hear some other comments here tonight as well, that it is contrary to the public interest of most of the residents on Sewell Road, most of whom I might imagine, great timing, they're not around right now. So when we talk about just coming there in the fall and coming back in the spring, not necessarily the whole truth. The comment about boats coming and going all winter, I live here year-round. I watch them go by. If you want to store a boat with Goodyear, you have to contract for service, winter service with the boat. And you bring your boat there, they take it for winter service. Throughout the winter, they're being shuttled to the Sewell Road facility to be serviced and brought back. There may be some exceptions to that, but in general, that's the policy there, I think. And it ought to be recognized that that's what we're dealing with when we start looking at the capacity of the infrastructure to handle their business on Sewell Road. The thing I'd like to point out about the road, most of their drivers are pretty courteous. I walk and run on that road every day. I don't have a lot of problems with them, but I will say that when you get down to the actual facility, often, even in the winter, you'll find trucks with boats parked in the road, leaving it as one lane. You'll find the forklifts coming out and having to cross the road with nobody to manage traffic. There's a very sharp turn right before you get to it on the other side. People come around that a lot of times in a hurry. I'm not trying to nitpick all the different things, but I'm just going to point out that there's a lot of issues here. When you go from Sewell Road to, from the facility on Sewell Road to Main Street, there's some blind curves. There's no sidewalks on that road. It's narrow. The larger boats, and there's a lot of them appearing these days, are 8.5 feet wide. And there's even, Cobalt makes a 9-foot wide. I don't know if they have any of them. That's even illegal on a trailer without exception. But 8.5 feet. These things come down the road, you know they're coming. I mean, you hear them and you see them and you get out of the way. They're big, it's a big rig. It's coming down. They're triple axle trailers. There's a lot going on. So there's a lot of people who use the road in most of the summer and even in the off season. They walk on it, they run on it. There's families that with children, people come there specifically for recreation. They stop in my house to visit with me. They say, well, we're down here taking a walk on Sewell Road. And so I think we need to recognize that there's a limit to how much, to what the balance can be between traffic, increased traffic on that road, and its general purpose as a residential community. And a high-end one that contributes, you want to get into the economics, to the tax base of the town. I mean, there's a lot of money coming to the town from there, from those property values. So, I think that I don't know the solutions to these problems. I don't know how they can invest and get more return out of their business without impacting Sewell Road. I don't have that answer, but what I can say is that I have the question. And I think that it needs to be addressed. People need to look at it and say, if you're coming in here saying we want to be able to have the capability to attach 10 more buildings to this place with its associated load on the Sewell Road facility, then that needs to be addressed as a comprehensive problem, not as, nobody can see the buildings because they're out in the middle of the woods. That's not the issue at all. It's got nothing to do with it. And so, I would like, people have some thoughtful questions, and I don't know that they can actually make all of these points to qualify for this exception. Excessive trip generation. It's excessive trips on Sewell Road. Hazards to pedestrians and vehicular traffic. Yes, a lot of traffic would be more of a hazard. It increases the more of these things you put in there. And so I have no problem with the business continuing or growing modestly where it is. But we all know that since the place turned into the current Goodyear Boat Company, they have absorbed, I don't know, 3 or 4 other pretty good-sized marinas in the area. And so there's a lot of boats that are coming down. I don't know if they're getting their service at Sewell Road or if they're getting it elsewhere. I assume they're centralizing this stuff because I see a lot of service activity. And so as this grows, what was supposed to be just a grandfathered-in, smoky little marina on Sewell Road, when it was reconstituted from the old thing, is turned into a growth monster. And we're all concerned. All our residents are concerned about it. And so I just wanted to make everybody aware of my feelings on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The fellow in the plaid, you jumped up first.
I think he stole my thunder. Russ Sabanek and my wife Judy and I have lived right
Could you
next door
talk into the microphone, please? Yeah, thank you.
right next door to the marina for 20 years. So we've seen it all. We've done a lot of improvements on our side. They've done a lot on their side. We share a border on the west side of the road and a fence between us and the building. And we have 3 of the 4 driveways that are right after the marina going west. And that's at the point where it does a U-turn. And we've seen children and baby carriages and dogs and runners and you name it, it's walked or been pulled down Sewell Road. And when it says share the road, I'm not sure that everybody realizes exactly what is involved in sharing a road like that. We have, at that corner, at the turn where the buildings turn into 2 of our driveways and goes into the U-turn, we've had very close calls. I've had a truck slam its brakes on as I was coming out of one of our driveways. We're on both sides of the road, carriage house and the main house on the water. And it's tricky. What baffles me is businesses don't grow in bits and spurts in different locations. They grow all together, or they have problems. And if you have a facility that has reached its physical capacity, like I think the marina has, you are trying to take an entity that runs as a self-contained machine, and you're taking property in another area, and this is granted a separate situation because it is a different location and a different set of problems. But those are the materials that will fuel the marina. And if you increase the fuel and you expect to use that fuel and have it functioning in a proper manner, you're going to end up ruining Sewell Road. What can I say? It's a problem that is a question of having reached its optimum size. The people in there have been very nice. They've gone through a lot of changes. Jeremy and I have had words on occasion because of cars being parked and not getting any cooperation. But that is not the common thing, and Jeremy might have been having a bad day. I've had a few of those myself. I just thought we should take a look at both ends of the problem and see how they fit together and maybe get a broad look at the situation.
Point taken. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
You'll have to raise the microphone.
think?
It's very picky.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm Dave Shannon, 31 Sewell Road. My wife and I are strongly opposed to the proposal to expand the Goodhue Hawkins Marina by increasing the off-site boat storage facilities. Expansion of the marina business and corresponding increase in traffic between the marina and storage facilities will negatively affect the residents of Sewell Road and other neighborhoods, including Filterbed Road, Friend Street, Barney Road, North Main Street, and Mill Street. I'm going to speak specifically about the impact we have noticed on Sewell Road. Since the town approved the original off-site storage facility several years ago, we have experienced a noticeable increase in traffic, congestion, and safety hazards on Sewell Road directly related to marina traffic. The introduction of additional storage buildings, significantly increasing capacity and traffic, would only exacerbate these issues. Sewell Road is a beautiful road used by town residents and visitors alike for walking, jogging, biking, and other recreational activities. These activities are threatened by the increase in traffic on the road. I've talked to many people who complain about how dangerous it is to walk on the road now. This on what not long ago was a quiet residential street. Our neighborhood is zoned for residential use, and the marina, although grandfathered in, is the sole commercial business on the road. While we understand the importance of supporting local business, the town should prioritize the well-being, safety, and quality of life of its residents. The expansion of the marina and the associated increase in traffic through a residential area is a significant safety issue, will negatively affect property values, and disrupts the peace and tranquility that our community values. The boats that are being transported are not small. They are typically large, wide boats being trailered down a narrow, winding road. Each time a boat is requested to be launched for valet service, it requires a trip by truck and trailer down Sewell Road to fetch it, a trip back to the marina to launch it, a trip back to the facility to store it, and a return trip back to the marina. Now, I know Randy mentioned that they aren't using those for valet service. I guess an interesting question would be, how much storage do they have in the covered storage at Sewell Road, and how many valet contracts do they actually have? And what would prohibit them from doing valet service in the future from the off-site storage area? In addition to this traffic, we have the trips down the road by boat owners and their guests, along with other marina traffic from employees, fuel deliveries, boat deliveries, etc. These boats are also driven to and from the marina year-round for service work. In essence, Sewell Road has become a thoroughfare for the expansion of a single marina's business to the detriment of residents of the neighborhood. This special exception, if granted, will have long-term consequences that affect not only the site in question, but surrounding neighborhoods as well. I hope the board will disallow the variance, and I hope the town will discourage any further expansion of the marina that negatively affects the neighborhoods around it. Thank you.
Yes.
A couple things I'd like to point out.
Your name, please.
One,
Yes, who are you?
Name?
Sandy Wentworth.
Thank you.
Couple things I wanted to point out when I've been before this board and the planning board or just been at the meetings. I'm always told financial issues are of no concern to you, and that's one thing Randy brought up about doing the entire project because it would be less money. And then someone else is mentioning that, well, all the money it's bringing into town, that should not be the concerns of the board. We have voted twice not to extend Filterbed Road all the way. These new proposed buildings appear to me, I can't see it that closely, appear to be extending Filterbed Road. If they had turned them, come in on their property in one end, you know, the property's not built so big. We have a saturation problem with traffic. And the boards have to do something about that. The gentleman before me is talking about Sewell Road specifically. While coming on Bay Street, it's a continuous traffic. I mean, you allowed an extra, the Taylor home, you let them build a nursing home and change the whole position of that. That's 100 cars a day, average, coming in on Bay Street. I already have boats from Goodhue Hawkins going by on Bay Street. I wonder if they're using the Pine Hill extension or whatever. Last summer, possibly the summer before, I don't remember which, they had a boat that was so tall it took down an elderly man's telephone wires. And we had to call the telephone company and said, well, we can get there within a week. Well, the man has a alert button. He needs that phone because if he has a problem, he can't get hold of anyone. And we had to threaten the company and get the supervisor to get someone out to fix that. That's not right. A friend lives on Varney Road, and another lady that had to leave may have said the same thing. There's too much traffic going up Friend Street to Filter Bed Road. The Goodhue Hawkins trucks with the boats are not stopping. And then in the next breath, it's not just them, it's everybody else in town. And they've had some real close calls getting hit because people will not stop. The traffic is so bad downtown, all of the locals take Bay Street and Front Street to bypass downtown. And then the summer residents have caught on, and now some of the tourists that come back are catching it. I sat in a driveway for 10 minutes trying to get out. Police officer was across the street trying to catch speeders. And I get so mad, I almost got out of the car and yelled at him to stop the damn traffic so that I could get out of the yard. So there is a big problem with that. And it's just more exhaust and fumes that you hear, that you smell when you live there. The Taylor home residents, I have friends there. The majority of them, if they want to go for a walk downtown, they use Filter Bed Road. They do not like using Bay Street, even if there were sidewalks, because they don't like the hill. So you do have pedestrian traffic on Filter Bed Road. Last time I was down there, it was not all paved, so you are talking about dust and stuff. But if there was no other businesses on that road, sure, put in the boat houses and let them store more there. But you've got to come to a point, you've got to stop some of this because of the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say, we do want to hear from everybody, but if it's a point that has been made, please be brief.
My name is Barbara Wood, and I live at Taylor Community. I live at 41 Taylor Drive. I've lived in Wolfeboro for 15 years at Taylor, and I also was present at the last exception meeting and went through all of the building of the current building. I'm not opposed to the buildings. What I am opposed to is the traffic, which everybody talks about, but the traffic I'm opposed to is the dust and the dirt and the noise that we hear at Taylor. My house abuts the marsh, and all the houses that abut the marsh, that sound carries. And now, not only does it carry now to the cottages, but to the new residence, which is the assisted nursing and dementia care building. And that building is square in the path of the sound from Filter Bed. And if that road is to be maintained as a dirt road, it's impossible. It needs to be paved and made decent for people who live there, and we get a lot of noise. And the other thing I'd like to know is if you can make sure that no maintenance on boats will be done up at this site. And I don't know if that was something that was said that had to be in the last exception hearing, but I think it needs to be, and that no maintenance should be done up on Filter Bed Road, because that would just increase the traffic. One last thing is, the traffic for the boats, they come in and out all the time, in the winter, in the summer, in the fall, in the spring, and they aren't just there for going, you know, in the spring to put it in and bring it back in the fall. There are a lot of people that are having boats taken up there that they take in and out. And so they take them out on the weekend, they put them back in, and then they call again, and so the number of traffic or the number of runs that go down there are considerably more than just twice a season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
My name is Kathy Dragonfly, and these notes might be slightly out of order because I've been writing them as everybody's been talking, and I'll try not to repeat things that have already been talked about. But the state of New Hampshire Department of Tourism tells us that history is the #1 draw and geography is the #2 draw. I would like to add that Lake Winnipesaukee is our biggest asset. We haven't begun to discuss conservation or what another 1,000 boats will do to our lake traffic, our landings, and especially with gas and oil going into the bay. A 10-year approval, I think you brought this up, Audrey, a 10-year approval is not a guarantee for us, but giving them permission would be a guarantee for them. I wasn't quite sure how many boats would be in each building, but if we're talking 1,000 roughly, I'm wondering if they're new or used boats. New boats would probably not have gas in them, but older used boats would. Another question I have is if it will be open front canvas storage or whether they will have closed doors. It's kind of a dark area down there. It might become a security issue. A lot of people have talked about Sewell Road, with this being a nuisance to walkers and the beep, 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 which will just now be magnified by 10 or 20 times. There's too much traffic to the nearby houses on Libby and Friend Street, and with all due respect to all of you and Randy, College Road is not nearly, is much wider than Libby and Friend Street. If you had a boat and another 15, like say a 30-foot boat and another 15-foot for the truck, we're talking 45 feet coming down the middle of Friend Street, and I just don't see that could possibly work. There would be a loss of value to the homes on those streets as well as any of the surrounding houses. I thought one of the things we were going to discuss tonight was how high the buildings would be, and all of them, well, most all of them, you were talking higher than what I thought was allowed in town. I thought we had a 30-foot maximum.
That's their next application, would be a variance for height. Yeah.
Kimball had a home business, and no one went to his hardware store, and very rarely, I'd go up there and talk to him for a few hours at a shot, and no one else would come in. We aren't talking Pine Hill Road and that district. Randy kept talking about this and that on Pine Hill Road, and if anybody does take and do something with the Quimby's property, it will tempt more and more people to come down that road. Private road doesn't mean much. People will take the shortcut until someone pressures the boards to take the property by eminent domain and make it a town road. I've had lots of experience with this, Port Wedland being one of them. When I grew up there 50 plus years ago, the builders dumped tons and tons and tons of sand in that area to put the beach where it is. They took down my grandfather's boathouse, they took down the breakwaters, and it became a large issue. And now, 50 years later, they now have a paved road, they have a town road, they want extra millions of dollars to be put into their beach so the runoff doesn't run to their beach. And I'm concerned that nobody's really looking at the long-term consequences of this project. What's going to happen 10, 20, 50 years down the road? And I know maybe that's not an ordinance, but I think it needs to be considered. Class 6 roads, the fire and police are not required to protect the buildings. And I'm concerned if there's any gas and oil spills that would become issues if the fire department couldn't get down there quick enough or didn't find the reason to go down there. That could become a huge forest fire in town. That could just wipe out the whole place. One thing I see is the baby boomers are pushing through the system. We're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we want more and more and more. And I think, I went to a school in Massachusetts that was on double sessions, and the kids were going in the evenings, the kids were going in the weekends, and I was all part of that expansion. Now, they've not only closed my high school, but they've closed another high school in Framingham because there are no kids. What's going to happen when all these baby boomers push through the system? Are we still going to have these buildings? What are we going to do with all those plastic boats? What are we going to do with these buildings 20 years from now? We'll have 10 buildings out there that are metal buildings that are rusting. I'm very concerned about that. And I guess my main concern is that we are sucking the quaint right out of this town. We need to stop inappropriate growth that isn't in harmony with the golden goose, which is tourism. This will ruin our natural geography in that green space back there. And if you guys don't stand up and say no, it's just going to blossom and blossom, just like everything else in town has. So these are just considerations, things that haven't been brought up by other people that I'd just like to put in your mind. Conservation and the future are two of my biggest issues here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Lady in back was standing up. If you can maybe one at a time get behind the person who's speaking, and then I'll have some kind of order.
Janet Vaughn from North Main Street. And I wanted to ask, and I don't know if they can answer it or if you guys
You
can.
need to speak to the board.
Okay. We live on North Main Street. We see the trucks pulling the boats down every day. And it's not just one trip out and one trip back. It's one trip with the boat on the trailer down to Sewell. The boat comes back with the empty trailer. Later on in the day, it goes back down with the empty trailer, picks up another. There's 4 trips for one boat. And I wanted to ask if someone comes for a weekend and they want to take their boat out for 2 days, does this happen 4 times one day on Saturday, 4 times on Sunday? Do you have a spot there?
Please speak to the board only.
Do they have a spot there for the boat to sit? Or we go through all these trips? I mean, and Friend Street, I mean, you drive down Friend Street, you see that truck coming up with a boat on the back. You can't really pull over because it's so narrow, and you've got the curbs that you're going to hit on that road. It's not like you're going off the side of the road. The traffic, and I wonder if all these people have their boats out on filter bed and they're bringing them in, where are they all parking when they're down on Sewell Road? I mean, I just wonder about that. I don't know if you could answer that, but it just seems like it's a nice little business down there, but as soon as you bring a couple hundred boats and you don't know how many are going to be coming, it's out of control. And Main Street is just crazy.
Thank you.
So, just had to say it.
Thanks.
Good evening, Derek Brown, Libby Street. I kept reminding myself of the phrase I heard earlier tonight, the perfect location. It is a great location for boat storage if you could levitate the boats and get them there. The problem is you can't. With due respect to the people on Sewell Road, I wish I lived on Sewell Road, that wide and that straight. I'm on Libby Street. Libby Street is 14 feet wide. We are scared going up and down that street. Now, I'm not saying big, deep V boats are going up that street. They're not. But the people that are trying to avoid that boat traffic, they are. So our traffic is increasing dramatically because of that. Because we, at the top of Libby Street, are a vantage point for people that don't dare creep out from Mill Street onto North Main Street. They're scared to do that. Now, I do think, with all respect to the board, a traffic study by people, now, I think, I suspect Mr. Persons is one. I know I've towed cars and boats for a lot of my life, big ones. So I'm understanding and appreciating the limitations of dealing with long things behind vehicles in traffic and lanes. I don't think this board is prepared with enough data to make decisions on where traffic should go, and that they should get an independent source to actually look at an ideal traffic pattern for that goal of getting the boats there, if that's what the end goal is. I don't think it comes from Goodhue. I think it comes from an independent source. I did go out the backside. I did go to the site visit tonight. That was very eye-opening. Two things I noticed. Trailers were everywhere, and there's only 300 boats there. A comment was made from Mr. Walker that, and it was also seconded here tonight. Someone had made the comment that, well, there's going to be an attempt to get the owners to come and get their trailers, to take their trailers back. Well, as a boat owner, I know if my boat's in the water, the last thing I want to do is bring my boat trailer back home and let it sit there in my dooryard. It's going to sit wherever my boat is. So it's going to stay there. So it presents itself as a hazard, a safety obstacle, and for those that went on that sidewalk, if they saw all those trailers that are out there, imagine when there's 4 times that many trailers out there with no organization to it. It will be a hazard, especially if there's a problem. Lastly, I did drive out the backside to 109A. It is almost exactly 1,000 feet. And the road is a pretty quick grading job to make that a nice road out to 109A. Almost better than from where filter bed formally ends to where the existing new large building is. It's almost better than that road in terms of terrain. So if one is willing to pave that front half, I'd say take it back there and show that this town is not just willing to push people onto Mill Street and Varney Road and Friend Street. Give it the same courtesy as the rest of the town and let them have their safe, quiet time at night too. Thank you.
I'm going to propose that we either take a break at 10 or we continue this at 10, but after this fellow speaks. So,
continue.
Okay. You guys, you think we should continue? Okay. Why don't you go ahead?
Good evening. My name is John Ross. I'm an abutter to the Goodhue Hawkins property, also to the Corinthian Yacht Club property, which surrounds the back of mine, and also to the Green Mountain Communications, which is the new boat buildings that were recently built. And I just wanted to share what it's like living next to a boat storage. I like it. The reason is because there's traffic during the day, but not at night. As far as Corinthian goes, the boats are in and out a lot. You know, they transfer in boats back and forth all the time. It's just 2 driveways down from mine, but I don't really notice it. They do have a forklift there, but it's primarily to store the boats, so I'm not affected by noise at night. And in the wintertime, they close the gate and that's it, it's quiet. I'm more affected I live directly across from the entrance to Harriman Hale, and I'm more affected by the traffic, the amount of traffic that goes in and out of there. So as far as being a good neighbor, they've been very good. And, you know, Goodhue has always had a pride of ownership appeal, curbside appeal, from what I've seen. I've lived in this town almost 40 years. I think the Achilles heel that needs to be addressed is the amount of traffic between point A and point B. And it seems to me that that's most of the concern of the people that were at the site visit today. But as far as you know, living next door, it really hasn't had that much impact on me. In the wintertime, it's the town trucks loading the Sanders, and you know that just comes with the territory. But you know, it's just what it's been like living next door. I mean, I like that the boatyard is shut down for the winter. It's not noise at night, and it's usually pickup trucks with trailers. They go in and out, and I hardly ever notice them. So, thank you.
Thank you. I apologize to everybody that has come who has not gotten to speak, but we do try to curtail lengthy meetings. How many more people really need to speak tonight? 3 minutes each? Are you guys willing to go to 10:30?
3 more people, 3 minutes each. How's that work? Let them go.
Yeah.
Let 'em go.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be really brief, I think. Mal Blodgett, here on behalf of the Land Bank of Wolfeboro, Tuftonboro. We are in a butter of this property. We own and have owned for many years about 40 acres adjacent to this property. We just simply want to ask the board to uphold the ordinances as they stand, and we don't see any need for granting a special exception. A lot of planning has gone into these ordinances. A special exception will change the character of this area, which, granted, it's mostly woods now, but at some point it will become part of Wolfeboro as much as probably many other areas. So we ask that the board deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi there. Mike Hobbs. Ooh, sorry. I live
good.
on 10 Filter Bed Road, and I'm not really prepared, but being a Filter Bed resident, I give you a first-hand experience about what I see. And I think, first of all, Goodhue's got a great operation. I walk by there, I admire what they do. I think this is very much needed. However, we got a traffic problem. I can tell you, I live on Filter Bed, and it is a year-round operation. I watch trucks come and go, trailers, tractors, you name it. Dust, dirt, and debris was mentioned earlier, and there's a gross amount of that. I have to wash my windowsills because they do bring a lot of dirt down from the unpaved road. So my big concern would be just the safety and the amount of use, because there's a lot of people that walk, ride bikes, walk dogs. I see that all day long. I do it myself. So I shudder to think about the impact of that amount of boats getting put down into the road. Because again, this is not one in and one out, spring and fall. This is year round. I wave to these guys all day long. They come, they go. Really nice people, they drive nice and all that, but the road impact is heavy. And again, this tractor trailer is pulling in 5, 6 boats on a trailer. And you know, the impact on the road, I don't know. It's all about safety.
Thank you.
But anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Ann Blodgett. I thought I'd wait till the end to see if anybody else was here from Friend Street, but there's a resident of Friend Street that is away, and so this is what they sent. Friend Street is a residential area. I would like to see Friend Street become a one-way street. There's enough traffic for a small road. We are already a throughway for construction trucks going up and down. Couple that with tractor trailers, big boats going up and down. Some will be going up and down at the same time. Also, there's a fair amount of people who walk, no sidewalks, and bicycles in the warmer months. Brewster brings their sports teams to run up and down our road too. There's noise and vibration, noise pollution, the brakes from the construction and tractor trailers and cars racing up our road. There should be a speed limit sign. If it were to become a one-way street, it would be great to have a sidewalk.
Thank you. Any other 3-minute speakers? All right, board, would you like to continue this to another evening for more discussion with Randy and the board, or would you like to try to finish it off?
Usually you give the applicant the chance to respond.
I was going to, but you won't do that tonight? Okay. Everybody's good? Randy, would you like to respond? Wow.
Okay.
Great.
That's a first. So are we continuing this to the first Monday of next month? We have a date certain?
Do we want to continue, or do we want to push through another half an
I'd like to make
hour?
a motion to close the public comment period.
Is there a second? Hang on. Hang on. It was too good to be true.
If you were going to, I presume you were going to vote immediately, but if you're going to continue, then I would probably reserve the right to come back.
Okay.
You know, I thought you were going to vote tonight.
I don't mind staying, but I would like to take a break.
My goal is to finish this tonight. We've got enough vested in time into it, and we should see it through.
All right.
I think that's an excellent
I'd like
idea.
to take a 7-minute break until 10 past 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let's
would like to tell us about? Are we good?
I would move that we close public comment.
Randy, do you want to say anything else? Okay. So, you're going to
Second.
move to close the public hearing? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Where is my thing? We need to go through the eight steps.
Number 1, site suitability. The specific site is appropriate location for the proposed use or structure. This includes A, adequate usable space, B, adequate access, and C, absence of environmental constraints. I don't think it can be argued that there is not adequate usable space. I think it can be argued that there is not adequate access.
And
that was
the
not
reasoning-
addressed. That was not addressed in response or the submittal. They addressed A and C, but not B.
So based on what? Are you talking about immediate access to the parcel or access from one location to another?
Oh, I'm saying access out of Filter Bed Road, access egress.
The road issue you brought up?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Audrey, I didn't get to ask this, and I mean, we don't have an answer to it, but if they did pave that entire road, when you pave a road, that changes drainage?
No.
What?
No.
No what?
No. It's not a town road. It doesn't
No,
matter if
said
they pave it.
No, I'm talking about the impact, like all of the issues we're having with water and drainage,
That would be
et cetera.
covered by the site plan at the planning board. They would be doing all the engineering. If they were to suggest to pave it.
We've just heard so much about that. That was in the back of my mind about what
Right.
happens when you pave something like that.
So access is a negative.
I'd like a short reason. As a
Well,
finding of fact.
they don't have frontage on Pine Hill Road.
No frontage.
That is
Okay, that's good.
easement.
Whether you're
And
right
then
or wrong, I don't know, but I mean, we're going to go with
And then
that.
the access and the egress, if they go out of Filter Bed Road, they dump onto Varney, and that's certainly
It's not adequate.
not adequate.
But they do have adequate usable space.
I did say that, yes. I said you have to give them A. They don't meet B. And C, we don't
They're
have
okay.
any scientific data for C.
All right, number 2.
Number 2, immediate neighborhood impact. And I brought out, they argue that they don't have immediate neighborhood impact because of the lesser desirable neighborhood around their immediate lot. However, I brought out, and I'm very concerned about, to the neighborhood in general, typical impact which extends beyond the proposed site include, and then we've got A, B, C, D, E, excessive trip generation. I don't think there's any doubt from what we've heard and what we have for an estimated trips.
It's at least double what they're doing now, and
It's
now
almost
is
triple.
almost triple.
When you add the 300 into it. And we don't know in that neighborhood what other boat storage there are. We have heard from an applicant that lives over in Taylor Homes. I was not going to go there, but she said the noise, vibration, and dust and glare in the Taylor Homes where she lives, nearest Filter Bed Road, is unbearable. And then D, smoke, fumes, gas, or odor. Fumes, gas, smoke.
Somebody mentioned that.
And
But
in addition to the trip generation, the issue with people kind of going through the small neighborhood of Taylor community,
Well, the
taking the wrong,
fumes up through Fenn Street, yes. You
Yeah,
could
but
say
taking
that
the wrong
that is
GPS
a
route.
nuisance, yeah. And hours of operation, we didn't even discuss that. So 3, that there will be no undue nuisance or serious hazards to pedestrians or vehicle traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. Well, there is no off-street parking, but it certainly is a nuisance to the access and pedestrian. Well, we've heard various people speak to their concern about pedestrian traffic on Sewell Road.
well, also in Taylor community. She said since they built the facility where people walk there, that they're concerned about some of the big trucks coming through there that take the wrong turn, go through that community, they can't hear well.
And on the
So it
public,
actually impacts-
part of
Yeah, it impacts
Filterbed
more than
Road.
Sewell. And
There's no
Friends.
sidewalk
No
on
sidewalk.
either.
Number
Okay.
4, availability of public services and facilities. We don't concern sewer, water, storm drainage, I don't know.
Somebody
Police
did
protection.
mention fire protection. and
Fire
they weren't-
protection?
Weren't going to be
Wait a
bringing the
minute.
road up to any
Fire
standard.
protection?
I have a concern with the fire protection, with having 1,000 boats out there. I did a quick figure of 25 gallons of gas in each boat. It was going to be, 15,000 gallons of gas on site, oil in the engine on site, and I do believe at their other storage building, they have foam generators that generate foam in there. I don't know if that's been considered toxic now or not, but they do have foam generators in that other storage building down by the water. Now, I did see tonight when we site walked, the new big building does have sprinkler on the outside and a pole fire thing. I don't know if it has fire. I mean, that's going to be not us, but this can be part of this concern is a fire.
And they did say they were not bringing the road up to town standards, so fire trucks do respond no matter what the road looks like, and that puts our fire trucks at risk. Yes?
Just in relation to what he was just saying about fire, I don't know how many people lived here for what length of time, but they had several smaller boat storage buildings on the edge of Route 16 up in Ossipee that caught fire on one occasion, and there was, they weren't able to save it. It's a real concern.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to add to that. On the site walk, I noticed it looked like they had a good clear cut on either side of that big building, so maybe the fire wouldn't be able to jump to the forest. But when I look down back, it's like they just stopped down the back of the end building. There wasn't enough buffer to, I'm sort of concerned of a fire, like we were talking about when the boat storage building burned, you think the market was bad downtown, but if you can watch videos when they burn, they can jump from building to building, and before you know it, it's.
So are you worried?
I would say we're still on 4, so. Yeah.
I was just wondering if you were concerned about the Taylor community, because they're so close. I hadn't thought about the fire jumping from the buildings in the back.
Well, I mean, it can be, I'm sure the lot could be designed so the buildings aren't close. This would be something for fire.
We're not talking about the wharf, we're talking about that piece of land.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
talking about.
No, no.
Yeah, I'm
Number
talking about
5.
there.
Number 5, appropriateness of site. Conditions shall be given to the following. We not concerned about parking, traffic circulation on site, because they're talking about the site. Not concerned, open space, yes, they have open space.
Actually, there are other people that have right-of-way across that, and, when I said it looks like they just use it all as their own, I think there is an issue with their parking and traffic circulation, because they're not
Okay,
leaving room for
okay.
other people.
The trailers, those trailers were all over the place. And I would imagine will continue to be.
And we
Landscaping.
had testimony that they sometimes just park in the road.
Yeah. Landscaping, we weren't concerned with. Signage, we weren't concerned with. Commercial vehicles, well, we've heard testimony that there are such going up and down there, but I think that basically most of 5 has been met. Lighting impact, we don't. 6, immediate neighborhood integrity. The use and established use patterns be weighed with recent change trends in the neighborhood. Now, what's interesting about this, I think it was Sarah that brought it up, the large parcel across the street from this, across Filter Bed Road, there's been approved a 99 lot housing project.
160 units. I
Okay.
brought it up.
Okay.
160 units, 2
Yeah.
apartment, yeah.
All right. So that definitely, if this went through, would have an impact if and when they build.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
7, impact on property values. That the proposed use will not cause or contribute to a decline in property values of adjacent properties. Well, we've got a letter of testimony saying that it would not.
I'm
so
willing to accept that for now.
I have to accept that letter.
Well, does it have to be absolutely adjacent? Because we heard from people
Well,
in
that's
Sewell
what it
that they're
says,
concerned.
adjacent.
Yeah, but we're doing this piece of property, not
And we've got
Sewell.
we get the
So we have to-
map of 40 acres, and it would be adjacent to that property. 8, the proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The master plan does say that, but I will say that there was a subcommittee formed by the planning board 4 or 5 years ago to investigate the proposal of putting Filter Bed through as a through street, and the committee decided not to recommend one way or the other because it was too involved with too many landowners, and so no findings were made.
And I have to say that the master plan actually encourages a connection
Yes, it
between.
does, but we-
Can I finish?
Yeah.
I want to put this on the record.
Yeah.
Master plan says it encourages a connection between Pine Hill Road and Varney Street, and that would be down Filter Bed Road or someplace similar, it back through there.
Yes.
So there's another way into town.
Yes, it does.
Thank
But
you.
the committee said after the master plan was written that we did not have findings that supported that.
That's right, and another committee might find that it makes sense after houses get built in there to do
Okay, but for the time
it.
being in 2024, that's where it sits.
Well, I got writing in the master
No,
plan.
you're
Okay.
correct. The master
Thank you.
plan does say that.
All right.
Okay, so, one thing I would like to add is that, and I don't know really what letter it would go in, site suitability, number 1.
That's it.
The cumulative effect of adding 2,000 trips per season
It's more than that.
in accordance with the 300 that have been approved, the cumulative effect on the entire neighborhood that they would have to travel to go back and forth from the boatyard to the storage yard would be devastating for the people on, Friend Street and
Mill
Sewell
Street.
Road. Is it Friend?
Yeah, Friend.
Varney, and Sewell.
And Mill.
And Libby.
And Mill?
And Mill.
And Mill.
And Libby.
Okay.
And Libby.
Yep.
So I would make a motion to deny Goodhue and Hawkins Real Property LLC, 121 Filter Bed Road, tax map 190-26, case special exception 24, for approval for their 9 boat storage units. Was it 9? I think it was 9.
It's 9.
He's shaking his head yes.
Yep.
Does anybody want to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Roll call.
Now, what am I saying?
All in favor?
No, roll call.
Well,
Yeah. So yes or no?
yes.
Yes or no?
Yes
No
for a
to it,
denial.
Or yes
Yes
to
to
deny
deny.
it. Yes to
Yes to
deny it.
deny.
Sarah?
Yes.
Yes to deny.
Yes to deny. Would
Now-
you care to withdraw the variance application, or would you like us to hear it? Okay, thank you. Thanks, folks.
Thank you for sticking it out.
We did it.
You never know.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have to say anything about the minutes?
We're not going to do the minutes?
No.
No, we'll
Okay.
do them next
They
time.
could be really easy. Those are really
I
quick.
know, but it's 10:30. We really pushed the envelope.
Yeah, that might have been mine. It might have been
Actually,
under
that
my-
Hopefully, I didn't steal any of your stuff.
That was-
Yeah.